92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
92% because of a bike?
Not just bikes. We also make treadmills and rowers.
Oh, let me guess, for elite athletes only, right?
Nope. It doesn't matter if you're an avid exerciser or new to working out. Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try Peloton bikes, tread, or row risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
Mone. That's how you pronounce. Rich, I want you to give me one. Mone.
Is it Mone? Mone.
Mone. Mone. Not even, it's not money.
Mone.
It's not Monet. It's Mone. 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 We have to pronounce things properly here.
Oh, of course. Yeah. On this show, yeah, we're not going to fuck around on this show.
Mone. 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 It's Mone. Say it, Rich.
Rich Craich.
Rockin' Rich, he's Jamming Joe. We got a great show for you.
Lady Job and Chair Shotter here.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding. We got like bells ringing and everything.
Yeah.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening?
How are you?
Doing good. Maybe our longest actual intro ever. We've had our special intros, our Christmas special, our 10th anniversary. The longest. We were like most of the way through the Smashing Pumpkins song there until we got to this intro. But the people need to know that you last week, the Mone, you got it. We, as I said in the intro, we don't fuck around here. We make sure that we pronounce things properly on this show, and that was a master cut of all the times. I think I got all of them. I'm sure there was like 20 more that I missed of all the times of you saying Mone last week on the podcast. So welcome.
I don't know why this has been so controversial. I don't know why a man pronouncing something properly has gotten so much heat. If you don't like the way I pronounce it, then the issue obviously is you. I'm just pronouncing it the way that Mone has intended for it to be pronounced. So, I mean, I don't understand why I'm getting heat for simply pronouncing something correctly.
Are you getting? I guess you're getting a little. There's not really heat. Most of the people love it. I think most of the people love it. If you don't love it, you know what? Don't tell us, because that's just going to make it worse. Every time somebody tells me they hate it, I'm going to add 2 more minutes of Joe saying Mone to the intro, to the point that, I don't know, every week it could get bigger. You know how you had the idea that you wanted the AEW women's title to get, what percent bigger was it every single week?
I wanted them to make the AEW women's title 8% bigger each week until it's like a gaslight thing. And then eventually you need like a forklift to bring the thing to the ring. But no, they obviously didn't follow through on that plan.
No, not yet. Not yet, at least they haven't. But
yeah.
So now
that was the world's dumbest controversy that I'm referring to, when apparently the AEW women's title was too small or something, and they introduced a slightly 8% larger title, and like you had to only be a very specific kind of nerd to even notice that the title was any bigger. And people were making a very big deal out of that at the time. So anyway, that's where that emanated from.
Well, thankfully, we've moved on. And now with AEW Discourse, people don't make a big deal out of stupid stuff every single week for no reason whatsoever. So that's good. We've moved past that. And we don't do that anymore. And it's good. We just watch the show and discuss the show earnestly. And then, it's just whatever, some stuff comes up. Not everything's great. Not everything's perfect. But we get past, getting hung up on the dumbest possible things ever and just beating those like a dead horse as much as possible. So, but yes, I'm going to do that with the intro. Anytime somebody complains about it, I'm going to add 8% more Mones to the intro, and to the point where the whole show might be that. We talked about the all banter show one of these days. There might just be an all intro show one of these days. So, be careful. Yeah.
Sit through all the Mones and see if a show eventually shows up, or if it's just 3 hours of Mone.
Yeah, could be. That'd be an easy show. I'd love that. I would still sit down though, wouldn't you? If I told you, Joe, the intro is 2 hours and 50 minutes long, would you sit and stay the whole time, or would you bounce?
That's psychotic. Why would I sit there and wait 2 hours and 50 minutes?
I don't know.
Nah.
Watch the No chat room, see what people have to say about it.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Would they sit through it? They would.
No. Well, some would. Some definitely would.
Patiently waiting.
That's not a bad idea. That's not because you're like, all right, I'm already 37 minutes into this. It can't keep going on, right? Like it must stop at some point. And then you're kind of, because there's a lot of people, it's the sunk cost theory that a lot of people have. Like, there's the idea that if you go to a movie and you know the movie sucks and you can tell the movie sucks, just get up and leave. Like you've spent the whatever. I don't know how much are movie tickets. I haven't gone to a movie in forever. How much are movie tickets these days, Joe? When's the last time you went to a movie? Yeah, I was gonna say.
They're not bad where I live. I mean, you could still get in a movie for like $8.
Oh, wow. See, I was gonna say $8 or $9, and I feel like if I said that, people would be like, "That's not what they cost anymore." And so, yeah, I didn't want to get in trouble.
Where you live in Chicago, you're not getting in a movie for $8.
No, hell no. And every movie theater now is like a recliner with a full bar and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So
it is getting ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay. Matthew Allen in the notable chat room said $16. Let's go with that. So you pay your $16 or whatever. Just leave. You know, you've already paid that. You're not getting that money back unless you could try. I suppose if you're one of those people that wants to go to the box office and say like, that movie was terrible, I want my $16 back. Like, I don't know, they'll probably do it. But you've already lost that money. You know, you're not going to get that money back. Just get up and just leave. But there's this sunk cost thing. And I think a lot of people would probably do that with our Mone show, where they would sit there and it'd be 77 minutes in. And they're like, I mean, I've already wasted 77 minutes of my night. Like, they might stop. When it stops, it's going to be hilarious. So I got to stick with it. And I think you just stick with it. 90 minutes, now you're really pushing it. 2.5 hours is now, that's absurd. At 2.5 hours, you got to leave, right? You are completely psychotic if you're still in at 2.5 hours.
There's only one movie I walked out of. Meet Joe Black.
Meet Joe Black. All right. That's the one. That's the one you drew the line at.
I walked out of Meet Joe Black.
Did you go and did you ask for a refund, or you just said, I'm good?
No. Of course not. I just got up and left. It was too long. It was bad.
I know. What was the premise of Meet Joe Black? I'm not sure if I even remember it.
Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins, I think, was in it, and he dies in the beginning of the movie, and then I don't know. I walked out.
Finish it. Yeah, you didn't finish
I walked out.
So how early did you say and do the Jerry Seinfeld, you know, put your hands in the air and go, I'm out? Like, how long did it take you to get that?
Maybe about 90 minutes.
90 minutes. Okay. All right.
So I think it's like a 2.5 hour movie or something.
And you just realize there's no point. We're spinning our wheels here. We're spinning our wheels. We don't need this.
Yeah. I hate this. I don't care how it ends. There's probably a Reds game coming on. So I just left. I was on a date, and my date wanted to leave the Sex in the City movie, but I got her to write it out, and we stayed the rest of the way. So that was almost
interesting. So she wanted to leave.
Yeah, and I was like, look, I don't like to leave early. I've only left early once for Meet Joe Black. I really want
and Sex in the City, the movie is nowhere near as bad as Meet Joe Black, right? There's no way.
I didn't think it was terrible.
Movie. That's not a bad movie, right?
Honestly, I didn't think it was terrible. You know, I mean,
tearjerker at times. It wasn't good. I'm not like sitting down with a bowl of popcorn and saying, but I've seen it, and I was like, yeah, that was fine.
Of all the movies, you've seen nothing.
I've seen nothing.
Sex in the City movie.
Yeah. I'm a weird cat. I don't know what to tell you.
That is weird. One thing I will not do ever is leave a sporting event early. Never. That I stay until the final whistle, buzzer, out. Whatever the event is.
Now, does that apply to all? Like, if you went to a minor league baseball game, would you do the same, or does that only apply to major league stuff, Reds games, MLB, NBA, NFL, that sort of stuff? Like, if you went to a independent baseball game, would you also adhere to that?
If I buy a ticket to a sporting event, I'm staying for the whole game. I don't understand this thing where people leave early. I don't get that. So I don't really go to minor league sports, but if I did, I think I'd stay for the whole game.
I'm usually a have to stay guy, but I have relented a little bit in terms of minor league games and stuff, because it's like honestly I don't really care that much.
Because you don't care who wins.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. I was just there to kind of have fun, drink, eat, do whatever. So yeah, if the team's down 7 with an inning to go, who cares? It's fine. But I will. I am with you. I will never leave a professional game early. And there was one time where I did, and as we were walking to the car, when the White Sox hit a home run, they'll let off fireworks or whatever. We're walking to the car and boom, they're down like 3, and they're down to it's beginning of the 9th inning, and it's like, they're like, let's go. And I'm like, I don't know, guys, I don't like it. We're only down 3. That's not a lot. That's not insurmountable. You can make up 3 runs in an inning very easily in the bottom of the 9th. I don't want to miss that. And the people I was with were adamant that we had to leave. We had to go. Let's just go now. Let's go now. We're walking to the car and the fireworks are going off, and I'm just livid. And this is pre-cell phone, so I'm like, I don't know what just happened. We're already leaving. Let's get in this damn car and figure out what happened. Thankfully, they didn't actually come back and win, but they got real close. They had like a guy hit a home run, then they got the bases loaded. The tying run was on 3rd or something like that. And I'm like, you are so lucky. You're so, because I would have been, if that happened to me, I would have never left anything. I wouldn't leave a minor league game early if that happened to me. I'd just be like, no, forget it. We are never, ever, ever leaving anything early, because I just missed this incredible comeback, this great come from behind win. The stadium's rocking, everyone's going nuts, and I'm sitting in this car so we could, save 20 minutes on traffic or whatever. It's ridiculous.
That's what I don't understand. Where did they have to be so bad?
No, I don't know. They just were like, we better leave now before traffic. And I'm like, who cares? Who cares? We're here. Like, this is our night. We chose this to be the activity that we're doing tonight. Like, who cares? Like, what's another 10 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever? And you're going to trade that in for a massive comeback, like a bases clearing double that the team wins and everybody goes nuts and celebrates. Like, that's a once in a lifetime moment. You don't want to miss that.
That's the thing. You made a good point. That's what you guys chose to do with your night. What's the point of leaving it early? Is it that important not to sit in a line of traffic for an extra 10 or 15 minutes? I never understand that mindset. This is the thing you're doing, so just do the fucking thing. I don't get it. I never got it.
I did, and I think you knew about this too. I did start making a habit of when I went to AEW shows that Sami Callihan was main eventing. I did start beating some traffic a few of those times, and I think
I have left wrestling shit. Yeah,
well, I was going to say I think Dr. Keith pulled a fast one on me. They did a title change at one of those where Pentagon defeated Sami Callihan. So I get to my car, I'm already like, dude, I am already like home. The main event is still going on. I'm home. I get a text from one Dr. Keith with just a smile emoji, and then it's Pentagon holding up the title, and I'm like, you motherfucker. I'm adamant that title change was to spite me entirely.
I have left wrestling events when I know I don't care about the main event. That I have done. And I know I'm not going to like the main event. I have to admit that I have done that, and I will do that again, probably. Maybe not, because I don't go anywhere anymore. But going places is just such a hassle. I mean, you gotta get dressed. You gotta look presentable. You gotta go to wherever it is you're going. You gotta be around people, and then you gotta like go home. It's such a hassle.
You gotta go. If you go somewhere, then you have to go home. It's true. Yeah.
Right. Then you gotta make your way back home. It's like, it's just so involved. I just think about it and I'm exhausted. I don't have any interest. It's being around the people really is the worst part. But I don't know, man. It's especially the idea of having to go somewhere where like I have to do some serious traveling. I think those days are over. Like I don't think I'm going to be flying to like LA for a WrestleMania weekend or anything like that. That's just too much.
Have you seen WrestleMania weekend so far? I don't think.
Well, WrestleMania weekend
will not be joining you on a plane to Los Angeles. While I enjoy leaving and traveling and doing things, I will also not be joining you in Los Angeles for WrestleMania weekend. So,
yeah, I got a friend who told me he's a Dolphins fan. He got offered 2 free tickets to the Dolphin Bills playoff game this weekend. And he's like, I turned him down. And the guy thought I was nuts. I'm like, I totally understand. Either have to fly or drive like 8 hours. That's already a deterrent. They're probably going to get blown out. They have no quarterback. The Bills are fired up with this guy who almost died. Forget it. Like, it's going to be a nightmare. I wouldn't go either. You know, I had someone offered me Super Bowl tickets to one of the Rams Super Bowls one year, and I turned them down. I thought about it, and then I'm like, I got to fly. Then I got to fly home. I got to figure out a hotel. Then I got to sit in the stadium. I'd rather sit on my fucking couch.
Well, I will say football is the absolute. I've been to one Bears game my entire life. I will never go to another live football game ever again. The worst in-person sport, far and away. I will accept tickets to everything. I will accept tickets. I don't even care about hockey. If somebody called me tomorrow and said, hey, I have tickets to the Blackhawks. You want to go? Sure, let's do it. You have tickets to the Chicago Wolves as our minor league hockey team. I'm in. I'm down. Hell, you want to go any basketball game? You want to go to the minor league affiliate of the G League affiliate of the Chicago Bulls, the Windy City Bulls? Absolutely, I'm down. Let's do it. I have turned down so many Bears tickets to the point where people don't even ask me anymore. People don't ask me if I want to buy Bears tickets, and people don't even offer me free tickets anymore because I've so often said no. Are you kidding? Why would I go and sit in the cold with 60,000 other people? I could just sit on my couch. I don't really care about football that much anyway, but like even then, like it's not. There's no enjoyment for being there live. Zero enjoyment being there live at a football game.
Football's a terrible live experience, and especially since this was maybe. If it was a non-Rams Super Bowl and I didn't really give a shit who won and I didn't really give a shit about being able to pay attention properly, I would go just to say that I went to a Super Bowl. But a Rams Super Bowl, there's no chance I would go live.
Yeah, you want to watch.
I want to watch the game and pay attention. It's not fun to watch it live,
yeah.
Yeah, and know what's happening and understand what's happening. And I can much better enjoy that experience from my couch. It would ruin the experience to go to a Rams Super Bowl live. And I know a lot of people probably think that's nuts. But now, like you said, any other sports are great live, but football is terrible live experience. Terrible. No such thing as a good seat. It's awful. You don't know what's going on. It's terrible. Wow, what a brutal way, grumpy way to start the show.
Listen to these old assholes that don't.
Yeah.
For the record, I leave the house. Joe thinks doing stuff stinks. I think doing stuff is kind of cool, but we're some two miserable bastards. We're so miserable. First off, here's an intro trolling the three people that don't like this bit that we did. If you ever tell us you don't like this bit, we're going to make it longer to torture you. Our listeners are dumb, and they're going to listen for 2 hours while we just play you saying Mone over and over and over again. Doing stuff stinks. And the NFL, the worst way to consume the NFL is by going to a game. And Joe thinks going to Super Bowls are stupid. There you go. That's our show.
Look, I'll go to stuff. I'm low key though. Like I'm a dinner and a movie guy. Nice dinner. Maybe go to a movie.
Good show.
But
Good show back in the day.
But like on a Wednesday night, I don't want to do that like on a Saturday night where the restaurant's packed. You have to sit next to some smelly stranger in the movie theater. That I don't want to deal with. I rather go out on like a Tuesday or Wednesday night when no one else is out, and nice low key dinner and a movie. You come home, balls feel right. Maybe you bang. Like that's a nice night to me. I like the crowds. I will not do a wait to sit in a restaurant. I mean that's utterly ridiculous. I can't do that. These people who will sit outside of a restaurant for an hour and a half to get a table at some, fucking mid-level Mexican restaurant or something. So you can order fucking a couple of burritos and a plate of nachos. What are we doing here? What are we doing here with the 90-minute wait? You can't do it. Anything longer than 15 minutes, Rich, I'm out.
I'm with you on that. Yeah. The nurse does not agree, but I think the idea of waiting for food is utterly ridiculous. I'm like, especially where we live, I'm like, there's thousands of other places for us to go. Why?
It's not going to be the meal of the century. Believe me.
Right.
No shot. So, go somewhere, make a reservation somewhere decent. Then you don't have to wait. You're going to sit outside an Applebee's for 50 minutes. But what are we doing? I don't understand. Just end this show. Now I'm in a bad mood. A terrible mood now. thinking about doing things.
Think about doing things and waiting for your what's the Applebee's like? What's their? I forget what their gimmick is.
Eating good in the neighborhood.
Right. Oh, they're we're the neighborhood grill and bar.
Right. And they have like
okay. Are you?
They've got like the football jerseys of the local high school team. Like on the wall.
Yes. Go team. Go local team. Yes.
Go local team. Yeah. They like East Side high schools over here in this corner. Then it's North over in this corner. Right. They don't want to leave any out, because they don't want to offend anybody. So then it's the Catholic school, like St. Peter's over there.
Yeah, I got St. Francis near me, so I haven't been to my local Applebee's, but I got St. Francis near me, so they'd probably get a.
Yeah, every corner of the Applebee's has the local high school team football jersey, and it's always the football jersey from like 2004.
Right, it's horribly out of date.
With the old design or something, It's
like those old mesh jerseys that they used to wear. They don't even wear that style of jersey doesn't even exist anymore.
Probably with some problematic logo that they changed 8 years ago.
Right, when they used to be the Indians and now there's something else.
Yeah. So. The East Side Tomahawks, and now they're just, the East Side Battle Cats or something.
Tomcats, yeah, they're the Tomcats now or something, yeah. Instead.
Right. But the Applebee's still has the old canceled logo up on the wall, the fucking Indian head, Yeah, that's what you get at Applebee's. That's what every Applebee's in America is like.
Good for them. Haven't been in Applebee's in a while. All right, let's at some point talk about professional wrestling because Joe, there is some stuff happening, and we are going to talk about all of it. New Japan, tons of stuff going on in New Japan. Cards for all of their New Beginning shows. I believe there's 4 of them in total. We also have a full card for the New Japan versus Pro Wrestling Noah. Technically Wrestle Kingdom 2, but I'm not going to dignify it by calling it Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. I'm going to call it New Japan versus Noah until it happens, but we'll talk about that. We'll also touch on, maybe briefly, Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill coming up this weekend. Some somewhat intriguing matchups, or at least some matchups that are worth discussing briefly at Hard to Kill. That's coming up this weekend. As I said, we'll get to that if we have time. 0-1, yes, it is the new year, and that means it is 0-1 time. So we are going to talk about and review 0-1's Happy New Year show from January 1st, 2023. We're also going to discuss the FSM 50, which unfortunately, I guess fortunately, we no longer have to pretend that we were not a part of the secret panel. Yes, to take the mask off, that arcade that you were always reading about in the FSM 50, that was me. I admit it. JL, that was Joe. The CL guy that loves all the Dragon Gate guys, still don't know who that is, though. Haven't been able to piece that together just yet. But yes, we did the FSM 50. We'll talk about the voting process this year, as well as our thoughts on the final list. ROH's Supercard of Honor, an announcement made about that. Ring of Honor returning to WrestleMania weekend with Supercard of Honor. We'll talk about that. Then we'll dive into AEW, a little bit of what happened this week, a very noteworthy episode of Dynamite. You reviewed it, obviously, with the Thursday Dynamite review over at flagshippatreon.com, but still worth discussing some of the other stuff. I want to touch on the Elite Triangle Match 7. Obviously, Mone not being there. We do have to talk about that.
Hold on. Who?
Mone.
Okay, that's better.
Thank you. Sorry. I apologize. It's the little tilde gets me every time I want to say Mone. Anyway, but before we do all that, we do have to kind of do a follow-up to our breaking news audio that we did on Tuesday night. Again, flagshippatreon.com if you want to go and listen to that. We did breaking news audio Tuesday night discussing the very heavy rumors and reports that WWE was being sold to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, their public investment fund. Most of the tweets about that, though, have either been deleted or the people have kind of walked back the idea of the deal being quote-unquote done. We have some other new reports as well that we're going to dive into. But Joe, first off, let's discuss that. We did the breaking news audio on Tuesday because it seemed real hot and real heavy, and there was a few actual official reports or people strongly implying reports that WWE was going to be sold to Saudi Arabia and go private. A few of those have been deleted, as I said. Other people have kind of walked it back. What'd you make of what we saw in the days that followed Tuesday, where it seemed like people were ready to jump on it, and now everything's kind of taken a step back in a bit? And we'll discuss some of the other stuff, and now that time's sort of been able to kind of cool off. Like, here's some other reports that have come out from some different, publications discussing it. But what'd you make of people sort of walking back the Saudi Arabia thing after Tuesday?
Well, I mean, as we alluded to on our audio, once the sort of exuberance and the excitement of the moment started to wear off, we started to notice a trend of who was sort of hinting around at this thing and the people who were staying out of it and not tweeting or saying anything at all. And I thought we gave a really good timeline on the audio that we did of the facts and the things that factually occurred. And then, the rest at that point was left up in the air. But it does appear that just some less responsible members of the wrestling media got carried away and started spitting out unsubstantiated rumors. And now here we are today. Some articles from some much more reliable places, non-wrestling places, have emerged. It looks as though this Rain group are being used to facilitate some type of just facilitate the negotiations if there is some type of transaction. Along with Kirkland and Ellis is working as a legal advisor, and a third company too, which I can't.
August LLC.
Yeah. So, and this Rain group is known for closing deals, and I know that they have already. I think David Bixenspan had a tweet that they've already disclosed WWE that they've been working with this Rain group on some other things involving the Saudis. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, it looks like David Bixenspan was at David Bix on Twitter. He did mention that back when they were originally doing the first Saudi Arabia show, the Greatest Royal Rumble or whatever, that WWE and the Rain Group were a part of that discussion. They were, I forget exactly, I guess just the representatives or whatever are, recorded in the public filings as having been a part of that discussion between WWE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or whatever. So this is a company that has ties already with WWE or has done stuff with WWE before. It does appear that they've been working with Vince McMahon before and have ties to WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia as well. So that puts another thing in there. But Rain does also, I believe they've done some stuff with Endeavor as well, which is another company that's been bandied about as a potential buyer. Endeavor, they own UFC right now. As well. So obviously they're already in, the combat sports field. So Rain does have, so it's not like because Rain is a part of this that now definitely 100% it's going to the Saudi Arabia. I don't know that we're there because they do also have stuff with Endeavor. But what this means is these guys are, like you said, they're closers. They're here. They're hired for a very, 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 very specific reason. And that's to close this deal.
Yeah.
To whomever it may be.
And the statement released today by WWE and the Vince McMahon quote, once again, he used that phrase of strategic alternatives, which this man can never just speak in the clear English that everybody else uses. That's the phrase. That's obviously the internal company phraseology they're using for seeking a sale, seeking a buyer. We've heard Stephanie McMahon use that phrase. Vince keeps using it over and over, the strategic alternatives. So that's code for we're looking to sell and we're offering this thing up. And that doesn't mean the Saudis can't come in and be the winners there. But I think that it's pretty clear now that, some irresponsible people just put some stuff out there that wasn't even close to being verified or official yet at that point. And it all smelled anyway at the time. It would have been way too fast for something like that to come together to begin with Vince only taking over officially a few hours earlier. And now we have other outlets that have Hollywood Reporter that night talked about 4 different potential buyers. And now we've had some other outlets today announce that there's been announced who some of the other potential bidders could be, including the Khan family. So very clearly, there's no deal in place, as had been reported by a few people. That this is any sort of done deal or just waiting on an announcement or anything like that. Because this announcement from WWE today would indicates that isn't the case.
Right. And I have seen and it's very possible that some of these people might be right. It might be the case that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the PIF or whatever, they're the ones that actually do make the sale. But like it's just what we saw on Tuesday was a lot of not great reporting. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially, even if you are ultimately right, the way that you go about it is not great.
Yeah, but you're gonna be right by accident because there was no deal on Tuesday night.
Right, exactly.
Okay, if the Saudis eventually, have the best bid and they end up buying it, I'm sorry, I'm not throwing roses at Milhausen and Cassidy. They and Cassidy Haynes because they were wrong. They may ultimately come out. The Saudis may ultimately come out the winners here, but
just because
that
they might be
that,
right doesn't mean they were right on Tuesday night.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and that's what I do need a little, because this is why we get in this position where people trip over each other to be the first, so they could say, "Ha, see, I said." Yeah. But if they were wrong, like as a flagship tradition, if you're wrong, you just kind of step back and go, "Oh, wait." But like in this case, this is a big deal that's going on. This is a massive story, a big time deal. So just rushing to make sure you got the first reporter, you got the first thing out there. It's just, it's sloppy. And we saw from Muehlhausen that he deleted the tweets. We talked about, as we were doing the show, he not only he retweeted it and then he pinned it. So we were like, oh man, this guy's pretty confident about this. Then you wake up and it's been deleted and it's like, oh, all right. So he either got something, DAZN either said it, or he got bad info, or he got spooked, or whatever it might be. Cassidy Haynes has stuck with it and saying, hey, I'm still saying it. I'm still going to be right. But ultimately, like we said, like even if you might be right in the end, the way it went about on Tuesday was not the proper way. And now we're seeing legit Axiom and Barons.com and Hollywood Reporter and these other people coming in now and doing what you should actually do and just say that, yes, of course, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to try to get involved, but also these other companies are involved as well. It's still an open bid. It's still an open process. It's still happening. It's happening, but we don't know exactly what it is yet. And to assume that any one of those people is definitely going to buy it right now would just be, it'd be stupid to do that. So don't worry. And I think it was even discussed on CNBC where somebody was like, oh, there's reports out that they've been sold. And this guy was like, they have not been, they haven't. Like that. I'm just telling you, they haven't. He's trying to tell people that own this stock or whatever, they're trying to buy the stock. They haven't been bought yet. So don't listen to anything that yet. They're up for sale. There's bids that are going to be out there soon, but nothing is anywhere near close to being settled in stone yet. Even if there is favoritism, even if Vince might favor the Saudis, like that's just not how it works. It needs a little bit more than just him deciding, yeah, that's who I want to sell to. There's a process here that's going to have to, that we're going to see play out over the next weeks and possibly months or whatever. So yeah, just what happened on Tuesday was just people going crazy and going nuts. But yeah, we now have, it's calmed down a little bit. Now the adults are in the room now and things are chilling out a little bit.
I mean, WWE corporate wouldn't have put out that press release today saying that they've retained these three groups to help facilitate a potential deal if they already had a deal. That's all there is to it. So there's no deal with the Saudis. There was no deal with the Saudis on Tuesday, and there isn't one now. There just isn't. So, Rich, we can pick one of these potential buyers and just put our name on it and cross our fingers and then say we were right in 3 months. That doesn't mean anything. So, we don't really necessarily know where it came from. I would guess somebody in the company who knew that the Saudis were potential buyers here. And then Sean Ross Sapp said that got into some wrestling media group chat and people just collectively ran wild with it, with the vague tweeting and, but it must have been outside of just that circle too, because Brian Alvarez, did a vague tweet saying that big things were about to go down and then never followed up on it. And I'm fairly confident that he's not running in the same circles and the same group chats as Sean Ross Sapp and Cassidy Haynes and John Alba and people like that. So obviously this rumor was circulating, outside of just one circle. But either way, it was
like
bullshit.
We said, we heard from people that like we said, third hand. We said
circulated to the locker room.
Yeah, right. They're like third hand from somebody in the locker room saying that, hey, yeah, this thing's imminent, this thing's done deal or whatever. But you always wonder, how did that conversation start? Is it a game of telephone? And hey, they're looking to sell to the Saudis. Turns into they sold to the Saudis. Like, oh my god! Like, and that's how things happen. That's how rumors happen. But that's why in honest reporting and good reporting, you go, let's talk to a few more people. Let's discuss this. Let's instead of just going with your first instinct of, hey, this person told me they sold to the Saudis. Okay, let's go with it. Like, that's just you gotta. It's just not how it works. And we saw on Tuesday that's not how it works. And clear as mud. Doing that sort of stuff is just it's not the way that things should work. And now what we're seeing happen over the last couple of days, this is how things should work. Getting quotes, waiting for the official releases, discussing it with actual people. That's what we're seeing now is what should have happened on Tuesday and should be happening throughout, as opposed to everybody just going nuts and doing a fire drill.
I would say one lesson that maybe people can learn from this, and this is unsolicited advice, and maybe nobody will care or take it, but if you do have an audience of any type, of any size, you're the things you say do carry more power than you think they do. And I can recall many years ago, I tweeted something from just my stupid personal account, not even the Voice of Wrestling account, where I said a major wrestling news story is going to break, and that carried to Reddit. And then it carried all through wrestling Twitter. And it carried so far that I got a call from Dave Meltzer asking me what was up and what I knew. And I had to explain to both Dave and then publicly that was like, hey, look, I tweeted this on my personal account because on my personal account with 300 followers, because it was something for my personal followers, people that know me personally. It wasn't a major wrestling news story that was going to shake the core of the industry. It was something smaller time that only my followers and friends would have considered major. And at the time, I thought if I tweeted it from my personal account, it would only reach those people. Being ignorant to, one retweet leads to another retweet, leads to a Reddit thread, and then it blows up. And if I really had some monster pro wrestling scoop, I would have tweeted it from the Voices of Wrestling account that had 15,000 followers, not my personal, you know what I mean? Why would I, so that was my logic. But the lesson I learned with that debacle was if you have any sort of following, because then people said, whoa, this is Joe Lanza from the Flagship Voice of Wrestling and from the Flagship Podcast. So this must be a big thing. And at the end of the day, I fucked up because I didn't understand the power that tweet was going to carry, even though at the time I thought because it was coming from my personal account, nobody would see it, which was incredibly stupid to think, and that people would understand that if I truly had a big scoop, I'd be plugging it on my much more visible account.
Be making some money, taking some money out of it.
And making some money off of it, right. So I kind of set the wrestling world tilted on its axis for a couple of days there because people thought I had some monster scoop when really it was a local Texas-based scoop. And that tweet was really only meant for, my friends locally on the local scene. So the lesson here is if you are someone that has a lot, even if you don't have a lot of Twitter followers necessarily, but even if you're just someone who has a name in the space and someone who's attached to a major website or really anyone with any kind of following, if you're tweeting out eyeball emojis, if you're tweeting out, oh my God, big things could be coming, if you're doing this kind of vague tweeting, which really serves no purpose other than to tell people I know something you don't know, or when this big story comes out, now you know that I was in on it, which at the end of the day means nothing. You have to understand the power that carries. And I think Tuesday night was a good example of what that can do. This reached all the way to, like you said, major cable news networks because of
CNBC was reacting to people on Twitter discussing this.
Yeah, because of one group chat somewhere with a bunch of irresponsible people connected loosely or connected to the wrestling media. And they decided that they got caught up in the excitement of doing some high school shit and passing along a rumor. And, it's it could have had long-ranging effects. I mean, this is a publicly traded company. This is a major news story. And as I said at the time on our paywalled audio,
it probably made a lot of people money, man. That stock shot the fuck up after all that was going on.
Rich, it made us money.
Yes, it
because
did. Yes,
we we're doing breaking news audio and not reporting anything, not being irresponsible, but it whipped everybody into a frenzy. And, people were curious what we had to say about it, and it's, I
think that was the most people we ever had on a live. I think
it is the most people we ever had on a live audio. Correct.
I think so. Right. I'm trying to think of All Out. That All Out 2021 may have been a few more.
I think this one was higher.
I think it was as well. Also, it was 11 p.m. Central, so midnight Eastern
on a weekday.
On a Tuesday. And it was like 190 people, 200 people coming in and out of that thing live, listening. Or the Noto chat was going nuts. Like it whipped everybody into a frenzy. And yeah, it's.
Yeah, and I mean, and it wasn't, and we didn't tweet anything. It wasn't our fault. We knew that our customer base wanted us to address it. And, it's as I said on that audio, which is being widely praised, by the way. You can listen to it on the $10 tier. As I said in that audio, if you noticed, the adults in the room were saying nothing. And that was me saying that in real time. Live audio Tuesday night. The adults in the room were saying nothing. And I ran down the whole list of who they were. Your Mike Johnsons, your Wade Kellers, your Dave Meltzers, your Brandon Thurstons, your David Bixenspans, the people who understand that there's John Pollock, the people that understand that there's a responsibility here to, you didn't see any of those people tweeting out emojis or this is, oh my God, I can't believe if this is, none of that. Okay. And that's what raised my antenna and made me suspicious that this story was going to have any legs. And it turned out not to. So, I just, hopefully there's some lessons taken from this. Now every outlet's different. Not every outlet wants to be, name your news outlet, trusted news outlet, of choice. I would say the New York Times just for the sake of the reference, but then politically people will get mad at you. So,
right. I was going to say the Washington Post. People say, yikes.
Right.
Bezos owns that or insert
right.
Whatever. The Chicago Defender, whatever. Go with some out-of-date paper that's no longer around. So.
And people wonder why I use dated references,
right,
because it's safer. So I can say not everybody wants to be Walter Cronkite. Okay, I understand that, and we all have our own ways of doing things. But and if that's the case, though, maybe sometimes you should sit these stories out, and stick with what it is you do. And I'm not taking a shot at anyone specific. I'm really not. I just think that it was kind of embarrassing. The entire debacle of it was pretty embarrassing, and maybe people will learn some things the way I did back in 2016 or 17 or whatever it was when that really sunk in with me. It was like, oh, okay, now I understand. If I say something on my Twitter feed, if I say something on this show, if I say something on the Voice of Wrestling, if I say something anywhere, it's going to carry weight, even if I don't think it should carry weight. That's too bad. It doesn't matter what I think.
Right. It doesn't matter how you interpreted it or what you think about it or what you thought or who you thought your audience was. That's not what this medium is anymore.
Right. It's going to carry weight because people are going to say that guy has some credibility because he's been doing this for 11 years and he's broken some stories or he does whatever the case may be. And then it just spreads like wildfire to the point I have Dave Meltzer asking me, I think what he asked me, it was like, oh, you heard that Cena's coming back too? And I was like, no, Dave, but thanks for the tip.
Yes,
I was like,
of course. Yeah, that's it. Of course.
And I was like, and then I told him what my stupid little story was and how it just got extrapolated.
Some rinky-dink Texas indie story or something, I'm sure.
Well, I'll tell you what it was. I mean, it was Brandon
it
Stroud. It was Brandon Stroud looking through the female talent's phone.
Oh, right. Yes.
It was, I got tipped
which
off.
Which to your little audience would be massive because your little audience at that time on your personal account were all mostly Texas indie people. Yeah, clued into that. That would say, whoa, hold on, that's huge.
Yeah, and I got tipped off to that early, and not by Justin Bissonnette. Don't rope him into this. It wasn't even him. I got tipped off to that very early on before anybody knew anything about it, and I knew it was coming, and I knew the shit was going to hit the fan. And actually, you know what? It did actually turn out to be a pretty big story, bigger than I thought it would be. And obviously, he was a major figure in speaking out and got banished from the business eventually. But that's what it was. It was, I found out that there was that female talent who has still never been named and never been uncovered. And give people credit, because I'm friends with people who know who that woman was. And these are loyal people who have never given up that name in years to anyone and have been loyal to that woman whose phone he allegedly went through. Okay, but that's what that's what it was. And I was just trying to, like, you know, it was meant for my Texas people, you know, and it just blew up from there. And that was a lesson learned. And I've never done anything like that since. So anyway, that's just my little anecdote as to how quickly news can travel, or just your stupid tweets can make something a bigger thing than it really is. And you may not even intend to do that. And there is some level of responsibility there. There is.
So what we do have now is some other reports have come out. Barons.com had something earlier today, and they were the first ones that had this little nugget as well. So they go on to list the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia through the Public Investment Fund, which again is a very good option. Seems like, if I was a betting man, that would be my leader in the clubhouse that I would assume they would go to. But again, other options they mentioned, Comcast, who obviously owns NBC Universal, owns Peacock, you know, that's all under the one same parent company. So there's some relationship there with WWE in the past, with Peacock and NBC Universal. Endeavor, as we mentioned, they are in the combat sports business, obviously with UFC. That would make a lot of sense for that company to say, hey, we have the money. Let's bring UFC and WWE together. We will kind of own the major, you know, to them, we'll own the major combat sports niche. We'll own the two biggest combat sport companies in the world. That makes all the sense in the world. But then they also dropped this little nugget. Quote, All Elite Wrestling, the top rival to WWE, led by Tony Khan and family, is in the pool of potential buyers for WWE. A person close to the potential transaction told Barron's, adding that the Khans will likely look for a financial partner to acquire the asset. Tony Khan's father, Shad Khan, a co-owner of AEW, already owns the football team Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as the Fulham Football Club, indicating the duo has deep pockets. All right.
The thing about that is, you know, Vince presumably wants to remain in control if he sells this thing. So I don't know necessarily if he's willing to work for the Khans or you know, but at the same time, I don't know enough about how these sorts of sales work and what the legalities are, and if they have to take the best offer. And if he could, you know, I don't know how any of that works. But you know, I also read, and I don't know if you just said that, but that they would have to get, you know, partners.
Right. They'd have to have another partner. They don't have the kind of money that they have a lot of money. They have a lot, but now we're talking, we're going a step up. We always talk about how people don't realize that the Khans have so much more money than Vince McMahon does. And that personal wealth wise and the Khans versus Vince McMahon in terms of pro wrestling money, like the Khans have way. We are now in a different stratosphere where we're talking about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's public fund, Endeavor, Comcast. We're talking about the biggest of the big companies. No, these guys, they're incredibly wealthy, incredibly wealthy. They're not that well. They're not Endeavor. They're not the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia wealthy. So that if they wanted to make a decent play for this thing, they would have to link up with somebody. They would have to link up with another partner that has huge pockets, and that kind of puts another wrinkle in the whole thing as well. It's not, they don't have the kind of money to buy WWE. They just don't.
Well, it's kind of like this. You need a new car, and you go to buy a new car, and it costs $30,000, and you have $32,000 to your name. I mean, yeah, you can write a check for $30,000 and buy that car, but
right?
Then you're going to be cash poor, so you don't do that. You know, so it's like, even if the Khans or whoever else have the liquid assets to just flat out buy the thing to back up a Brinks truck with the literal cash and buy it, that's not how these deals work. I mean, because, you know, you can't, that's the best way I can explain it to people. So, you know, nobody would buy a car that way, and you wouldn't purchase this asset that way either. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the most that's the headline that grabs the most attention, and that's the most salacious outcome here would be, you know, the Khans controlling, you know, nearly 100% of the relevant wrestling market in America. But something tells me that that's not a realistic outcome here, because
No.
if there's any way for Vince McMahon to prevent them from buying it, he will. But it gets them in the news, and
did you check out? It may have just come up as we were doing the show, but did you see the latest CNBC article about this? I think it did actually come up while we were doing the show, so probably not. I'm not going to say I know who. Okay, I'll read you the article, and you can come to your own conclusion here. So this is published 8:33 p.m. Eastern time from Alex Sherman on CNBC.com. WWE's smaller rival AEW interested in merger, sources say.
Oh, merger now. Okay.
Merger.
Yeah.
Tony. All Elite Wrestling, a professional wrestling league owned by the Khan family, is interested in merging with World Wrestling Entertainment, according to people familiar with the matter.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
camp, All Elite Wrestling's camp, right? Is saying this.
People familiar with it. Coach TK. People familiar with him.
Hey, man, with the initials,
Yeah.
TK. The Khans, who also own National Football League's Jacksonville Jaguars and Premier League's Fulham FC, could partner with a strategic media company to share the intellectual property while merging the wrestling leagues, said the people, who asked not to be named because the discussions are private.
Look, it's like we're laughing about it. You can't dismiss it out of hand.
You can't dismiss it out of hand, but I will say that the article, it tries to humor it, and then the third paragraph is like, the idea that Vince McMahon, the controlling shareholder of WWE, would merge his company with the much smaller AEW is a long shot. AEW hasn't had talks with McMahon or Nick Khan, the company's chief executive, said the people. McMahon may view selling to the Khans as a non-starter.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
So it's like,
we could say these things, but I mean,
if there's any way he can say no to that, he's just not going to even consider them a real bidder. But again, I don't know the legalities of all of that. So someone who's better in tune with these kind of mergers and acquisitions would have to comment on that and let me know let us know if you're selling a publicly traded company, if you're required by law to take the best offer. But what does the best offer mean? That might not necessarily mean just the highest offer. If Vince and his puppet board feel like leaving him in power is in effect the best offer. See, I don't know how any of those things work. I don't, I'm not going to pretend to know how they work.
Yeah, I'm pretty ignorant to that whole world, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but it seems highly unlikely that's a real possibility. Now, just to play around with it, would Tony Khan owning everything ultimately be bad for the business in all of the ways that McMahon really owning all of the relevant market share for 20 years was? Yeah. Would I care? I have to be honest, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't, because my thought process is this. The people who own WWE now, the market leader, the most dominant product, in the space, they present a shitty product that I hate. And I know Tony Khan presents good wrestling that I like. So would I be totally opposed to him controlling it all? Rich, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. If that makes me a terrible person who wants bad things for the industry, then so be it. I'd much rather Tony Khan be running everything, because I've seen Tony Khan run 2 different promotions now, and they're both pretty great. So why wouldn't I want him running a third? As a fan, I would greatly enjoy that. The people running that company now stink. They haven't been giving me wrestling that I like for over 20 years.
As long as I'm not a wrestler, because it would suck for them, obviously, because now there's one game in town, one place to get paid substantial money. Yes, they might be, you might have WWE run as a separate company, or Ring of Honor still a separate company, whatever kind of fantasy booking you want to do. Yes, great. Yes, you can do that, and there'll be, but essentially, and Vince McMahon did this too. We have ECW, we have SmackDown, we have Raw, but it's not like you get a better contract. The Raw isn't going to offer you X amount of dollars so you can go back to SmackDown and say, hey, Raw's going to give me $100 million for, over 10 years. What are you guys going to give me? And, that's not how it works.
Well, the difference here is is AEW, Ring of Honor, and presumably WWE would genuinely be three different companies.
Right.
Unlike the brand. But the difference is if Brian Cage decides
there's one guy negotiating all these contracts at the end of the day.
Right. And he's like, and Tony Khan offers him X amount. Brian Cage says, well, I'm going to go see what AEW wants to give me.
Yeah, okay. And then he opens the door and there's Tony sitting at the desk.
There's Tony again.
Right. Hey, put her here, buddy. What do you got? Yeah, through a trap door. Yeah, through a trap door, he runs into the other room. Goes,
right.
Brian, come on in. What do you want to say? How's it going? How are you?
It's all the same room.
Right.
So, so that's obviously the key component here. But from a fan point of view,
no, WWE sucks shit. So it's like, who cares?
Exactly. Yeah,
they presented horrific professional wrestling that's made me hate this thing that I've made that once was my hobby. That's now kind of my second job or whatever. They make it fucking terrible. So, yeah.
I mean, if I don't know, if I had $20 billion, would I spend 8 of it to buy WWE and take it private and then just fucking kill it?
Just run Mid-South tapes.
I think about it, Rich. I'll be honest. I would think about it.
That's fuck you money. Yeah. If you have fuck you money and you're you, like if you are you, if you are current Joe Lanza and you just somehow stumbled in, you get a call tomorrow and it's like, hey, your great uncle, he actually had, billions stashed away and here's the amount you have. Honestly, if they gave you $9 billion, I think you would spend $8 billion to shut that company down. Because you're you.
Yeah.
Because $1 billion, you're good. You're not going to need the rest of that. What are you going to do with the rest of that?
I'm good with the remaining $12 billion.
Right. You don't need that much money.
So I'd shut the fucker down just to troll people, in all honesty. I mean, because to me, it's so tainted at this point that I don't think I could ever, enjoy it again. The history is so destroyed by the last 20 years, So, fuck it. I'd buy it and shut it down.
Yeah,
that's the funniest outcome.
I think you should just run Mid-South tapes, like run like that week's Mid-South and just
right. Yeah,
that week's Memphis or whatever. Just show it on USA until they're like, all right, we can't do this anymore. This is absurd. We cannot have this on our. We can't have Eric Watts, cutting promos or Joel Watts. Joel Watts is who I mentioned. We can't have Joel Watts like on our network, from 1985, cutting promos. So.
How about this Dan Greenspan comment in the chat? I'm going to read you this one. It's probably worth it for the cons to at least feign interest for a closer look at WWE's books. Same reason NFL teams always interview coordinators from inside the division for head coach. End quote. I mean, because legally, if they show interest, WWE has to expose them to certain information, right?
Some stuff, but they are a publicly traded company. What else is
yes, you kind of have the books. That's
all there. Yeah, you can get that now.
Right.
If it's a private company, absolutely. And that's what that's the difference of the NFL teams. The NFL teams can't get intel from other teams. They can't get intel from other coaches or whatever because the Detroit Lions are not legally obligated to upload their playbook every single week to let everybody know about what their playbook is and how they do and what their schemes are and all that sort of stuff. WWE is legally obligated as a publicly traded company to let you know what their financials are and what their books look like and all that sort of stuff. So you can get that info now. So it's a little different. Yeah. I see what he's saying, and it's not a bet for a private. If WWE was still a private company, yes, I think it's a very good reason to at least get yourself in the room and at least get a discussion. But again, they're a publicly traded company. I don't know that there's that much that you can't see already. Like what would they find out that you can't already know about their financials?
Yeah.
And their books. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, again, I'm kind of ignorant to that, so I don't know. But I would assume as a publicly traded company, everything that they could get access to would be out there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's some numbers that they combine into one line, and people like Meltzer and Thurston estimate when they chop that up and decide. Like, I don't think they've ever officially told the public how much money they're getting from the Saudi shows? Isn't it folded into some other
It is, yeah.
line item?
Live events and special attractions or whatever. I forget what it was called, but yeah, we Thurston was able to kind of break it down and go, okay, they're getting $50 million per show or whatever.
Roughly, like 45 to 50 or something.
Right.
Like based on subtracting everything else out that we do know. So, maybe from that standpoint.
But again, I might be ignorant, but like if you ask the company to disclose that information, will they be able to give you more, or do they only have to give you what they have to give you?
I have no idea.
They're shareholders. Yeah, I don't know that either. So
those are questions I don't know the answer to. But it does seem like they're dead serious about selling. I mean, by hiring these 3 different firms to handle things.
I'm fully on board now with this thing is going for sale for sure.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be sold, but listen, strategic alternatives, Rich.
They are seeking strategic alternatives.
I think maybe that Vince realizes that the right fees have escalated to the point where he understands that his media partners are going to come to him now and be like, look, instead of handing you X billion amount of dollars over X amount of years, why don't we just buy this fucking thing? I think he realizes that maybe we've reached that point. And plus he's 77. Plus, he's angry that people talked him into resigning. Plus, he seems to want to just screw over his own family members. And he's actually, it seems like he just wants to troll people in the way that I just joked about how I would troll people. I mean, he just wants to come in, take over, because now there's this report that Levesque and Stephanie are against, him coming back, and which we knew, and also against selling. They're also against the sale. And why wouldn't they be? They thought they were inheriting all of this.
Yeah, they thought that was their job for the next 40 years.
They thought they were inheriting this kingdom, for the rest of their lives, and then passing it down to their kids, and maybe D-Clan getting in the mix. Who knows? But now
TBHW D-Clan.
Yeah, but now Vince, he's like nudging him out. And
I don't think he's nudging him out. I think
it's not even much of a nudge.
I don't think it's a nudge. Yeah, I think it's a very deliberate push out.
So what's Levesque? What's his strategy here? He's going to ride it out and try to stay low under the radar until
I don't know. Yeah. Hey, how's it going, Pops? How are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird.
It's so weird. Yeah, I don't know.
And he's occupying the seat that Vince very badly wants more than anything. That creative seat. So who knows how long that's going to listen. If Levesque had any good ideas, which he hasn't shown any proof that he does yet in these 6 months that he's been in charge, if he has anything interesting rattling around that brain of his, which again, he hasn't done anything interesting. So if he's saving all these interesting ideas, now's the time to do them.
Right. Whatever's on his yellow pad and his, break in case of emergency, it might be time to do those. Let's do it. Let's go with those now.
He might want to try to get him out of his system and show people because it's the clock is probably ticking, on his super boring creative that he's provided all of us with for 6 months. I mean, how dry and boring has this guy's creative been?
Oh, bad. It was bad when he was running NXT, man. Like, that's the thing is, like, he had an opportunity. He had the 2 hours, and I've seen some people mention, and we talked about it at the time, like, it felt like when NXT failed, as spectacular as it did against AEW, that Vince lost all faith in them. Yeah. In Stephanie and in Triple H, as like, you guys, I thought I would give this kingdom to you. I don't think Vince McMahon ever envisioned at 77 years old selling the company for $8 billion or $9 billion. You know what I mean? I don't think that was ever. I think his plan was, my daughter and my son-in-law will inherit this business, and then my grandchildren, and it will be a family business. To the rest of it, we'll make millions of dollars. We'll make millions and billions of dollars, but it will be a family business, and it'll always be ours, and it will always be McMahon's, and we will run the wrestling world or the sports entertainment world or whatever. And they fucking dropped the ball so much on NXT and Stephanie. I don't know, a bunch of different stuff. I mean, I know people cited the MLW lawsuit. I just think a multitude of things made him kind of sour on Stephanie too, to the point where they basically publicly said she fucking sucked at her job this summer when they fired her, as people sometimes forget about that. When we talked about it on that show, remember when we were reading those quotes and we were like, oh my God, the way that they're talking about her is like, holy shit, leave of absence, my ass. Like, she got fired. Yeah, he sucks. He's not very good at booking wrestling. So, which is not great because he doesn't really have anything else. And this is another thing where like you said, Of course, Stephanie and Triple H don't want them to sell, because what else can they do? Particularly, what else can Paul do? Like Stephanie, if she really wanted to, she had a bunch of time on a board of directors for a major company. She was the chief brand officer or whatever. Any of that, she can probably go do talk shows and corporate meetings and stuff and talk about brand synergy and philanthropy is how brands are going to win, or you know what I mean? Like she can do all that sort of stuff. What the fuck can Paul Levesque do?
Well, okay. Let me bring up my bi-yearly question. Do they have enough money to start their own thing, especially after a sale?
After a sale, maybe. Do you feel like Stephanie has that in her?
I don't know.
I think Paul has it in him because he has nothing else. But
would Paul? Okay, so let's say they find a partner. Let's say through their years of connections, they find a television outlet, willing to air them. And they've got the capital to start up. They've got some partners. They've got people invested in it. They've got their own money. They obviously don't have con money, but they've got their own money. Would Paul Levesque want to start behind not only Vince and whoever buys it from Vince, but also behind Tony Khan and AEW? I mean, they'd be the clear number 3 out of the gate, with a lot to prove. That's a lot harder of a position to be in than running NXT for years with no real bottom line responsibility to be worried about because it's being sustained by by the parent company, right? That's one huge advantage he had. I'm sure he had a budget, but it's other people's money that he was operating with when he was running NXT. And it's a lot harder than just being.
And we always said it didn't matter. I mean,
they were willing to run in the red. That was well documented.
Right.
That it was okay that they ran in the red. So he didn't have to be fiscally responsible or any of those things to the level of somebody running a company with their own money. The way that Tony Khan has to be fiscally responsible to remain in business, or the way that Tony Khan has to maintain his television relationships to remain a viable business. I should say he can keep it alive if he wants, but to keep it a viable business. And then it's also wouldn't be nearly as easy as just being handed the keys to the market leader, just being handed the keys through nothing that he built or earned, right?
Which was his life's goal, by the way. He's been setting this up for 25 years, 30 years now.
But in this case, if they were to start their own thing, now you do have to build something from scratch. Right. You do have to be fiscally responsible. You do have to answer to investors. You do have to answer to your own bank account and your own money. And you do have to produce for a television network. And you do. And oh, by the way, you've got to compete with the 40-year market leader. And you've got to compete with AEW, who is now firmly established in the market as a viable player and a successful one. And you're behind both of them to start. So I mean, does he have the guts to do that? And then if he does he have the skill and the aptitude to be successful? I tend to think that your opinion is no, based on what you've said.
Yeah,
about
I just don't
booking.
think he has that in him. I just don't.
Now look, talent loves him, and when contracts came due, he would get talent to work for him. I don't have any doubt about that.
Oh, absolutely.
If he could pay the going rate for people, there's people who love working for him. But here's the thing that Tony Khan had that Paul and Stephanie wouldn't have, even if they wanted to do this and wanted to stick their necks out and prove that they can succeed in Pop's business. Here's what they don't have. Tony Khan would not have done this if the elite weren't available at that time and available at that exact moment in time. That's the other factor here. Forget Tony Khan's money. Forget Tony Khan's connections at the time that he had with Turner. Forget the fact that Tony Khan was a lifelong wrestling fan who we knew was going to do this thing right. Tony Khan to this day still would not have been in the wrestling business today if those contracts of the elite, All In, the success of All In, but more importantly even than that was the elite being available.
Yeah.
And Cody Rhodes, who was part of the elite, I guess we lump him in because he was part of it. That's the key. Tony Khan knew he couldn't do this without having those marketable talents that he saw that proved that they can draw with All In and with the success that they had in Ring of Honor. because I think people might forget how successful Ring of Honor was from a ticket selling standpoint when all of those guys were there, when Cody was on top and world champion and the Bucks were there and Kenny Omega was dropping in to set gate records in Chicago and everything else. Okay. So that's the other factor. Paul and Stephanie could want to start something, but who are they going to start it with? They need a legitimate money drawing star at minimum. Khan had 4 or 5 right out of the gate, and he knew that. That's why he had the guts to do it. He wouldn't have even have tried it without the Elite. Who are they going to? Who do they start this thing with? So that to me is a bigger obstacle.
Johnny and Candice isn't quite the same cachet as Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, who are selling T-shirts and setting gate records and all that sort of stuff. So not quite. Not quite.
That's the bigger obstacle to me than the money. Who's
the guy? Who are the guy or the girl or the woman or whoever that he says, all right, we're starting blank and boom, here's who's on the poster. Who would be on that poster? Dexter Lumis?
Mone?
Yeah,
that'd be
the answer.
Aside,
but I don't know if
that's the one. It would have to be. But here's the thing. You can't put this thing together that quickly. This would take months, if not years, to put together. She's available now, we think. I mean, just because she wasn't on AEW last night doesn't mean they don't have something cooking. And we know the New Japan deal is short term. But if she keeps pushing tickets and she keeps pushing New Japan World subs, maybe it doesn't stay short term. But we're spiraling here. The point here is, even if they would want to do something, I don't know how they do it because I don't know who they build it around. What, are they going to pluck the indies? You're going to build it around Alley Catch? What do you do?
Right. I've seen some people, there's a few people in the Noto chat room saying The Rock and Stone Cold and sort of stuff. Those people aren't going to want to work for Triple H.
Man, come on. What,
also, they don't really love him. This is the problem. His whole life's work was to get to the top. His whole life work was to, pass all those guys and get to the top and marry into the family and inherit this business when it was all said and done. Now he's all the way at the bottom again. He'll be all the way at the bottom. You don't get, hey guys, hey, how's it going, pal? Fuck off, dude.
There's a generation of wrestlers that feel indebted to him, but it's not that generation.
It's not that generation. Exactly. It's not his peers. His peers don't respect him on the level that Johnny Gargano does or whatever, or Mia Yim does or whatever. Those guys don't respect him. Those guys don't really like him that much. Stone Cold Steve Austin is probably not working for Triple H's, Fantasy Fed or whatever. The Rock is definitely not doing that. So you're down to,
and he can bring Shawn Michaels with him, but you got again.
That's what we're going with.
No. I mean, he could bring Shawn because Shawn Michaels is another one who this generation of wrestler they love the guy.
Right. Oh yeah.
So you bring and Shawn would go with him, I would presume, and he could put the whole fucking NXT band back together if he started something up. But then you're sitting around with a thumb up your ass waiting for talent to become available. And you need drawing.
It's hard
talent.
to do. It's what AEW did, and we always say this. It was very difficult. It took the exact right situation. We've talked about this time and time and time again with AEW, and you just brought it up there again. It took the right guy with the right money, with the right family, with the right partners in Warner and Turner, with the right wrestlers at the exact right time that he did it. Yeah. If he did it 2 years earlier, it wouldn't have worked. If he did it 2 years later, it might not have worked. It took, you guys are available right now. I have money. I have Turner. Let's do this. If I don't get you, I'm not doing it.
And
Right.
Look, WWE thought they had them. That's that famous promo, that December 2018, I think it was. We're going to give you guys what you want. The whole family out there, Rich, because they thought they had the Elite locked up. And had the Elite chosen that, then AEW wouldn't exist. Because he couldn't get Punk at that time. And if he didn't get the Elite, well then, that's it. And they did get the Elite, and then Moxley became available at the right time. Again, timing. And then, Punk waited out the pandemic, and then he jumped on board. Now the rest's history. They're not going anywhere. As long as they can keep TV, like anyone else, as long as they keep a TV deal, they're not going anywhere. So, Yeah, that's the big key. And you know, and again, I don't even know that Triple H has the guts to do that and put his own money up.
It's
and
so
find
much.
partners.
I mean, this is a guy who just had a major health crisis as well. Like, we're talking like sleepless nights and stress, and you gotta buy. I mean, like you said, it's really easy to walk into WWE, a company that's been established for 60 years at this point, and you don't have to buy your own TV.
Yeah, it's all set.
You don't have to buy a ring. You don't have to buy cameras. You don't have to hire anybody. You walk in and say, all right, like you said, the keys to the kingdom. You walk in
Literally
and go, all
handed
right.
keys.
It's mine now. Here we go. Okay. And there you go. That's all you had to do is sit in the chair and go, all right, crack your knuckles and get to work. That is not the case with starting up your own thing.
I hand people keys to restaurants and tell them to go run it. I don't ask them to start it from scratch.
Build it. Like literally build the building.
Yeah.
You must build the building. You know?
No, the infrastructure's there. Just here's the keys. Don't hire shitty people and make sure you're in the black. That's all. Like, they don't have to build it from the ground up. You know, and he was handed the keys. You know, that you know, so it's like, this is a completely different, and again, yeah, his health, I didn't even think about that aspect. So I don't know, but it does seem like I just have the, maybe we're reading this wrong, and maybe he has a tremendous relationship with Vince. I mean, there were theories out there that Vince was shadow booking all along anyway, to some degree. I mean, you know, I've
always said that the fun turn of this entire story is Triple H kind of sticking with Vince over Stephanie, because again, like, this is his life's work. This is what he's always wanted, and to give that up, I don't envision, just like I don't envision Vince McMahon sitting next to a pool for the rest of his life, or sitting on a yacht or whatever for the rest of his life with an extra $8 billion that he's never going to spend the money that he has right now ever. So I don't buy Triple H going, well, nevertheless, and just sitting by a pool and with his feet up in a cabana chair or whatever. Like, I don't. This is all he's ever wanted, was to run this company, to be the top guy, and you know, yeah, I it's probably very tough to give up, and I think maybe he's having that sort of crisis of saying, well, fuck, like, stick with your wife, obviously, but shit, this is all I ever have. Like, I got nothing else to do with my life. Because what else does Paul do if he's not running a wrestling company? What is he showing an interest in anything else?
He's got some kids, right?
He's got some kids. Yeah. Okay. That's boring. Doesn't that get boring? I don't have kids, but I imagine watching kids gets boring after a little while. They're also getting kind of old, aren't they?
I don't know the guy, Rich. I don't know what he's into. Maybe
what I know of him, I don't think he'd be happy sitting next to a pool, you know?
Maybe he likes to fish. I have no idea.
That's true. True.
You know,
I know he likes Metallica, Poppy, and wrestling. That's all I know about Triple H. So.
Yeah.
No, he likes Motorhead, Poppy, Shawn Michaels, and wrestling. That's all I know about Paul.
Yeah. I don't know, but sure, we'll be talking about this every week.
Yeah, until they get sold, and then even then, I'll be discussing it. So there's that. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Let's move on to AEW. We're talking a little bit about AEW here. Start with the Elite versus the Death Triangle. Again, you do the Thursday Dynamite reviews at flagshippatreon.com. $5 tier to listen to that every single week. What'd you think of this week's Dynamite? Real quickly, I don't want you to have to recap the entire show again, but I thought it was a newsworthy enough show that we usually don't do this because we want to keep it kind of exclusive to the Thursday Dynamite reviews, unless there's like a big picture, big major thing. But I feel like this week was big and pretty major. This was a awesome episode of Dynamite, an incredible episode, I thought. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was great, and I think that it's been great for maybe 4 or 5 weeks in a row here. Really, since the pay-per-view, it's been great every single week. And I just, big picture, I don't know if people, even the people who like Dynamite, I don't know if they appreciate how great this show is and how thankful we should be that we have it. I mean, it's just, and you say this all the time, it's like people will nitpick the one bad segment they don't like and forget that this was an hour and 50 minutes of just great wrestling television, which is, almost always the case. This had 3 great matches last night. The level of wrestling on this show, I mean, I'm comfortable saying, and we've said this even before, that this is the best wrestling show in the history of wrestling. I mean, there's been no
It's not even up for debate. It's not, at this point, I won't even listen to another argument because you're wrong.
No,
you're wrong.
It just I've
watched most of it. I've watched a lot of it, and you're wrong.
And we're going on year 4 and everything else. It got plenty of history, and it's just great wrestling every week. And the shows are just almost always good, and they're very often great. They're very often very close to or pay-per-view quality, like this week's was. And I mean, you got Jon Moxley and Hangman Page, and then that ladder match at the end, and then you had Danielson, Takeshita wedged in there, and you had an MJF promo. This is like a mini pay-per-view. I mean, these shows are so good, and I think it's like I said today, like I wrote today in my description for my review, it's almost boring to talk about how great Dynamite is every week. And I know it sounds like we're just, kissing AEW's ass, but I'm just telling you what I think. The Dynamite is great every week. It just is. And does it mean I like every second of every show? Of course not. But I can't. And Rich, I know you've completely hand waved and you barely ever watch anymore. I can't even tell you the last time Raw, SmackDown, or NXT has made me feel like Dynamite makes me feel every week. Like every week I look forward to Dynamite and then it delivers. And then I have like a little rush of adrenaline after it's over. Like, man, I like wrestling again. Then I hate wrestling again the rest of the week. And then I watch Dynamite and it re-energizes me and I like wrestling again. Like this is the pattern every week. This show's so good that it re-energizes me. And I couldn't even imagine a pro wrestling scene since 2019 where AEW didn't exist. Especially with all the problems that New Japan went through during the pandemic. Because New Japan was great for a long time, and it really nosedived during the pandemic. Through a lot of it wasn't their fault. Some of it was. Could you imagine AEW, a wrestling scene without AEW for the last 3-4 years? Where all we had was this shit WWE product and New Japan struggling with the pandemic and the rest of Japan, which has basically been bad. And CMLL fell apart during the pandemic. AAA is just a trash bag promotion. I mean, what? American Indies are terrible. Terrible. The worst they've been since 2002. I mean, and I don't know if people appreciate this promotion and this weekly show enough. I really don't think they do.
They don't. And that's, I rag on it constantly. It's when I come into, our Discord or I look on Twitter after a Dynamite. And this isn't everybody, and I probably should just ignore most of these people. But when I see people going like, I don't know, like I really didn't like the MJF promo, and I'm like, sure, whatever. But like, Jesus Christ, look what you just saw. Or like when I do bring up, this is the best wrestling TV show, people go, I don't know, Raw was pretty good in 2013. It wasn't this good.
Come on.
I was watching it. Shut up. Stop responding to me. You're wrong. You're wrong. All right, Raw was pretty good in 2013. Those Shield matches were okay. So those 4 Shield matches were pretty good on Raw. Okay, I get it. Yes, they had good wrestling. We just got on this week's Dynamite alone. This week's Dynamite, like you said, we got Danielson and Takeshita, Moxley and Page, and the ladder match 7. I mean, those are 3, and the women's match rocked. Like that match was good too. Like,
the women's match was good, and I think they have something with Jungle Boy and Hook. I don't know what the plan is there.
I saw you're calling them a blowjob tag team now, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. They're heartthrobs.
I can't steal that. Alan 4L of all people.
Oh, Alan said it. All right. Well, it's very smart. So of course it came from Alan.
He said it a couple weeks ago when they announced that, or whatever, whenever it is they came together. He put out. You didn't see the tweet? I know you're not on Twitter much anymore.
No, I didn't. But he nailed it then. He nailed it.
He's got a great tweet. Yeah, it's
that's gonna get those screams back. We always say, where are those screams in wrestling? Anytime we watch Old Territory Wrestling, we're like, where are the women? Where are the screams? Huh?
He put out a tweet. He's like Jerry Jarrett. Where are the blowjobs? Bill Watts. What are you talking about, Jerry? And then Tony Khan. Don't worry, guys. I got this because of the Jungle Boy and Hook team. It was a great tweet, right? Look, I think they might have something with that team. I don't know if you saw the quarter hours. It's the only quarter hour on the show which bucked the 4-week trend, line and was higher than the trend of the prior 4 weeks. And it was also the highest quarter hour on the show outside of quarter hour 1, which we all know is always the highest quarter hour on the show because of the lead in. And if you look at the down card demographics, all of the female demos, especially the younger female demos, were up 20-30% over the last 4 weeks for this week's Dynamite. Now, look, it's only 1 week. It's only 1 quarter hour. It's a small sample size of data. It could all be circumstantial, but I feel like there might be something with this Hook and Jungle Boy team. And they were over big in the building, too.
Yeah, they were.
So, and really, it's a perfect tag team, Rich, because, Jack Perry is built to be the Ricky Morton and take the beating. And who is more suited to be a hot tag at this stage of their career than Hook right now? To just take that hot tag and start T-boning people left and right. And then you hit your finish, whatever you're going to do for your finish. So even from that standpoint,
it's a team that I would have never put together, but once they got put together, it was like, God damn it, yes, that's exactly what they should be doing. It's fucking
holy
perfect.
shit, does it make sense?
Yeah,
and I'm embarrassed about it, but I did some fantasy booking, Rich. You want to hear my fantasy booking?
You've been doing a lot lately. You gotta check yourself, but go on.
So here's what you can do. You can build these guys up and get them all the way to the tag team titles. Okay. And they can beat the Acclaimed. They can beat some transitional heel champion. I don't care who they beat. Okay. But you can build them all the way up to the tag team titles. And then who ruins their moment? The guy that everybody forgot about, Christian and Luchasaurus.
I was just hoping you didn't say Jeff Jarrett, but you're right.
So listen, that's a great option too. I might rip up my booking sheet. Yeah. Now how
that's
great has Jarrett been?
Turn. You blow jobs.
How great has Jarrett been?
I gotta
give
admit,
it to me.
I gotta admit, you're right. It was last week. It was last week's show where that match of the Acclaim was just fucking great, and he's doing his strutting and he's just jumping up and down. The time that when I finally said, God damn it, Joe's right, Jarrett's the best, is when the referee. So after they got the pinfall, and I think it was Aubrey that came down, right? Aubrey came down and said, no, and was trying to talk to the other referee. Jarrett stands in front of the other referee and goes, no, you ain't got to hear none of that. You ain't got to hear none of that. Just like classic old school. Like his idea was like, if I just separate these two people, there's no way it's going to change.
Yeah.
Like, because he's an idiot. And heels used to be dumb. I love that heels are dumb again. Heels are dumb again. And it rules. That's how wrestling is supposed to be. And people that don't get it, don't get it. But I get it, and now Joe, I get it with Jeff Jarrett. When he did that, I said, God damn it, Joe was right. Jarrett rocks.
That's been a hot feud with the Acclaimed in the buildings, the match on Rampage, all that shit has been great. But anyway, back to my original point, because Christian and the Dinosaur Man have gone away, you'll forget about him by then. But that's unresolved. That shit's unresolved with Jungle Boys, so you can bring them back, and then Jungle Boy and Hook have an immediate program when, after they win the titles. But that's a lot of fantasy booking, and I feel gross for even doing it. But it's almost perfect because it keeps Jack Perry busy until Christian comes back, the idea of the tag team. And the other thing that this does, if you do keep them together and build them up for a title shot, it keeps Hook on TV and it keeps him wrestling. Okay. Hook needs ring time.
He needs reps. He needs reps bad.
He needs reps, and it'll get him on TV every week. We know he has a crowd connection. We know he's always going to be over, but he needs the ring time. And a tag team is perfect too, because it's less pressure, right? Because it's a great way to cut your teeth and get that ring time and be involved in long-term and short-term programs. I just think it all makes too much sense. And, if they are a draw with the female audience, in particular, the younger female audience, that's all just a bonus. So now, for all I know, this was a one and done with the firm, and maybe they won't. But I don't know. I think they might have something with these two as a team.
I love it. But an incredible episode of Dynamite. I did want to touch on the best of 7 series. Obviously coming to a conclusion there with the Elite and the Death Triangle. I thought the ladder match was good. I saw a lot of people throwing around 5 stars. I don't think it was that good. And I don't know if that's just my ladder match thing now, but I mean, it was as good as a 2023 ladder match could possibly be. I thought the series itself was fantastic. I don't think that match was my favorite of the series. I don't want to do hey, let's rank all 7 of these matches or whatever, but I do think that I think it was that no DQ match. What was it?
The street fight or whatever.
Yeah. I forget. Was that 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago? I forget because they took the 1 week off or the 2 weeks off or whatever. Whatever that one was. I forget which match that was. I think it was match 5. I want to say was that one was my favorite. But yeah, the no DQ street fight was because that was just chaotic and crazy and nuts. And the ladder match was really, really good. And hell, I saw one of them live, and that one resonated with me. I saw the first match of this series live, and that resonated with me in a lot of ways as well. But I mean, I just thought, for all the, hey, how are these guys going to be able to do 7 matches and people saying, oh, they're just going to do the same shit over and over again. I mean, they weaved an incredible story throughout the 7 matches and to the point where by match 7, Phoenix and Alex and these guys don't have any issue whatsoever using this fucking hammer anymore. They're just full on heels. They're using the hammer. They don't give a shit. They're just, where it was, it started off with a little bit of deliberation. I'd like to not, I don't want to win it that way. That's not the right way. To now the point where they're just full on heels and Phoenix is like, hey, give me that fucking hammer. Screw these guys. I'm going to beat their asses or whatever. So you had that story in there. You had, injuries. You had guys getting beaten up in between. You have Pac with the broken nose. They, have that they could kind of weave in there. You have Kenny Omega and then going to Japan, coming back, his swollen eye and he's jet lagged and he's out there doing stuff. I think one of the Jacksons has like a broken toe or something's broken on his finger or foot or something like that. There's been so much in there. And I think they have done a really, really good job of making these matches feel a little different as you can. At the end of the day, it's still the Elite and it's still the Death Triangle, and there's still going to be a lot of things that are going to be very similar in these matches. But I was a little worried they were going to get samey, and I think they halfway through kind of switched over to doing the DQ street fight stuff, and I think that kind of saved it a little bit, because I think if you did 7 straight matches, that might have gotten a little old, whereas I do think that they were able to kind of adapt and change things. But ultimately, now that it's over, it's like, yeah, this rocked. I mean, I can't imagine having any real issues with this other than you're just a bad faith actor or something like that. I don't know. I thought we got 7 matches between these guys, and every single one of them was pretty fucking great. So I don't know how I can complain.
I think that look, it was the Death Triangle and the Elite, so these matches were going to be a lot of guys doing stuff. And there's really nothing wrong with that, because that's why all of these people are over, and that's why all of these people are stars, because they do stuff. But there was absolutely a through line from the first match to the last where the stories kept building on one another. I think my favorites were the pay-per-view match, the Chicago match, and this ladder match. The pay-per-view match because Phoenix finally succumbed to Pac and he used the hammer and we got the surprise winners, right? Because we all thought the Elite were going to just come back and win. But Phoenix kind of does like the heel turn or whatever and uses the hammer and Death Triangle wins. I thought that had a very creative and a finish I didn't see coming, that I felt dumb for not seeing coming. The Chicago match, because of all the CM Punk chants, and that just had such an electric atmosphere. So I think that one stands out for me too. I love when crowds do shit like that and just take the atmosphere over in all the right ways. And I thought that match really felt special.
A lot of fun. And I was there live, so obviously I have a little bit of bias from it, but I thought it was like fun. I mean, that's one of those fun matches I've ever been in the audience for. I mean, so I'm biased, and I think that I have that one higher on my list. But, looking at the Note Up chat room and seeing a few other people do have that Chicago match pretty high as well. So, including yourself, who ranks it high. So I'm glad to know that it's not just my bias of being there live, that it was actually that fucking great to be there.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back on this 7-match series in 5 years or whatever, I'm going to remember the finish from the pay-per-view. I'm going to remember the atmosphere and the moment of the Chicago match, and then the wrestlers wisely playing into that, which is what you do when you're a pro wrestler. And then the ladder match, with the great finish that we had here, where Phoenix gives Matt Jackson the pile driver on the ladder. It's kind of take him out, a bump or whatever. He's holding the ribs, but he's able to give the one-winged angel to Phoenix, but then he's selling the one-winged angel as well. And then Pac comes off with the black arrow, but Kenny gets the knees up, and then that allows Kenny, with the injured midsection and all, to scale the ladder and pull down the title belt and win the match. So, and this match had a bunch of crazy, wild ass fucking bumps in the lead up to that finish. So those are probably my 3 favorite, but they even though the matches were a bunch of guys doing stuff, because they had to be,
It's these guys.
Still managed to.
I don't want.
And it should be. That's
I don't want Kenny getting a hold and going, all right, Penna, let's rear this thing in here.
But even with all of the incredible spots and the wild shit that they did in the 7 matches, there was still a very clear through line, and they still built from match to match and told a story from match to match. Even when they pivoted to the street fight, that was because the Elite was tired of getting screwed with the hammer. So Omega was like, look, why don't we just remove all of this bullshit, and you guys can do whatever you want, and we'll just make it legal. Let's just have a street fight. And Death Triangle was like, all right, great. Now we don't have to hide the weapon. Like, we'll agree to that, So even when they pivoted to more, no DQ style stuff, there was a reason for it, and they had finishes that played off of prior finishes. So they could have easily gone out there 7 times and did the same flippy-do match, and it would have been crowd-pleasing to every one of those fans in all of those different cities, and it all would have gotten over just the same, but they did put thought into it, and they did do match-to-match psychology, and they did do storytelling from match to match, and there was a through line from the beginning to the end, and that's a credit to them, because they could have been lazy from an intellectual standpoint and just gone out there and done spots.
Right. And
I would never call them lazy.
And you have a great point there. Every one of those crowds would have popped just the same. Chicago would have popped.
Yes.
Los Angeles would have popped. Garland, Texas would have, because it would have been them seeing it live. And those crowds would have loved it. But the viewers at home might have said, this feels kind of the same as it was last week. But it wouldn't have mattered. Like most fans might, and a lot of fans might just say, you know what? Fine. Good enough for me. These guys are doing cool shit. This is cool. I enjoy this. But like you said, there's also the aspect too that the live crowds would probably still go absolutely nuts for every single one of those matches. But they didn't do that. They didn't take the easy route. And I respect the hell out of that. Yeah,
they told a 7-match story. And, they again, as I said, from a mental standpoint, they could have been lazy about that, but they weren't. And I would never call them lazy from a physical standpoint with what they all put their bodies through. You knew that wouldn't be the case. You knew they're going to work hard and injure themselves and put themselves through physical.
They all made it through, to be honest. I really thought somebody was going to. And then when Pac breaks his nose at Full Gear, it's like, oh boy, this is a bad start to the. But no, they all, they're banged up, obviously. But yeah, the fact that nobody had to miss any time in this thing, given AEW's luck over the last year, I was like, oh, you're going to book 7 matches and think that these guys, with the way that they work, are going to be able to last 7 matches. And they are. They're probably a little sore. Probably going to have to maybe take a couple weeks off, but they fucking did it. The fact that Kenny had the old Osprey match in between these, like, Jesus Christ, what?
Yeah.
And people are there are honest to God people on this earth that are like, I don't know about this Kenny guy. Fucking what?
Yeah.
What?
He flies to Japan, has one of the most physical matches we've seen in years.
Ever.
It's his
ever.
Flies back to America with a boot print on his face. And then has the 7th match here. And oh, by the way, it was a ladder match. And the first thing he does is go crash through a table.
Right, does the Rise of the Terminator right through a table, yeah.
Yeah, the guy went away for almost a year. He got his body right. And, and this is a guy who worked through all of those injuries in 2 different companies before he took that time off. As the Impact World Champion. Yeah, in front of no fans in Impact Wrestling. In front of no fans in Impact, of all places, and worked hard. Again, he could have mailed it in Impact, but he didn't. He went out there and killed himself. The fucking death matches with Sami Callihan, the match with Rich Swann, where Rich Swann got knocked loopy, and then Kenny had to carry the last half of it, and they did all that crazy shit. Like, he didn't have to do that. And then you have people saying, he didn't do nothing for Impact. It's like
dorks.
Working his ass off and giving them their biggest ratings ever on that network. And it's like, I don't know. I don't get it either. The level of disrespect he gets in some circles. I think a lot of people, though, who were down on Kenny have come around on him.
It's pretty impossible not to. They now you look like a complete idiot. Like it's like you're obviously coming from some sort of bias or something, because there's just it's objectively that guy is just one of the best. He's one of the best. You can't. How can you not love this effort? We always say effort. Yeah. That's how we could. There's nobody giving the effort that Kenny Omega's giving right now.
Hey, look, if you think he's a dork, all right, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I think FTR Bald is a dork. Do I ever not give him credit for his effort?
You named him one half of the Tag Team of the Year in the Flagship Awards.
I do nothing but praise his work. Okay? You might think Kenny's a dork. You can't question his work ethic. I mean, he might be one of the hardest working wrestlers I've ever seen. You cannot question his work ethic and his drive to be the absolute best. And you might not even think he's the best. You might not even think he's as good as we do. You might not even think he's good. You have to respect the work ethic. Rich, I just listened to Jim Cornette put over Kenny Omega
through gritted teeth
and Will Ospreay for how hard they worked and how they beat the shit out of each other.
Their match is too good, though. Their match is too good, though. That was a problem.
Now listen, he had other critiques, but even he could not deny how hard these guys went out there and worked and what they put themselves through physically. And it's like you cannot deny Kenny Omega's work ethic. That I can't accept under any circumstance. You can't. And and I think it was appropriate that he was the last man standing of the 6, and he was the one to pull that title belt down. And and he not only got healthy when he was gone, but look at the fucking shape he got into. This guy's pushing 40. He's made his millions now. He's had all of these injuries, and he comes back looking like that and working this hard. Rich, he doesn't have to do this shit.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, remember when he came back in that shirt and everybody said, "Oh no, look at Kenny. He's fat and he's out of shape and he has to wear a shirt now." And we came on the show and said, like, this guy thinks about wrestling a lot. I bet he's just doing that as a gimmick. And then the next week, he ripped his shirt off and he's fucking shredded. And he looks incredible. And he's wrestling like crazy. And then, he had his ribs taped. And then he rips the tape off the ribs. And it's like, oh my God. Yeah, and yeah, he looks fucking phenomenal. Yeah, I don't honestly see, other than the guy's a dork and you might not like him personally for some reason. I don't know. Other than that, I honestly cannot take critique. Like we said about Will Ospreay, like if you're gonna, I honestly can't take your Will Ospreay critiques anymore. Like I'm at a point where you're just, I don't know, I don't value your opinion anymore. If that's the opinion you hold, that's kind of where I'm at with Omega too. I've been that way with Omega for a while, but like after this run, after these weeks, after this year, or like just this last month, if you honestly can with a straight face tell me, I don't know if I get it with Omega. Like, what are you talking about? What? Just an incredible amount of effort, incredible amount of work.
Even Cornette said, I get why people who like this stuff like it. So if Jim Cornette has come around,
big.
It's like, and there's things he don't like about it. And I think some of it's performative, and I don't want to make this a Cornette thing. But I do understand where he's coming from. I do understand where he's coming from with some of the stuff he doesn't like, even if I disagree with him. And I do think some of it's performative. But if someone like him is even coming around, because he doesn't dislike anyone as much as he dislikes Kenny Omega. I mean, we all know that. So yeah, no, the series was great, and just the level of thought that Omega puts into all his matches, and the other 5 guys obviously too were phenomenal in the series. And the Mox Hangman thing, this was another talking point I had. I'd like your take on it. A talking point I had today was, for all the hand wringing that people did regarding this Mox Hangman storyline at the start. They need to remind us why we hate each other. We need a video package. No one knows why they don't like each other. For all of that hand wringing that was done at the start of this, Rich, right under our noses here, now that we've seen the first match that they've had, and now that we've seen that amazing post-match angle, which I didn't see coming, where now it's like, Hangman concussed Mox, right? He got him back. But Hangman had this look on his face like he had split emotions on it. Like he liked that he got his revenge, but he also knew what he went through with his concussion.
Right. I've been now in this guy's position, and shit, I just did it to him. I got so caught up in my own emotions that I now put this guy in what I was stuck in and yelling about and screaming about and getting mad about type of stuff. Yeah, it was cool. And
he had the perfect facial reaction, like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. And
I got my emotions got the best of me, and now I feel like an asshole doing this to this guy.
And now, man, I don't know. Oh shit! Now I don't know. Am I supposed to be happy about this or not?
Mind is going to explode when he sees that. By the way, he cannot fathom that Hangman didn't want to concuss his fellow competitor. That very idea, impossible.
Yeah, but the point I made on the review today was, all of a sudden, this is the best feud in wrestling, right? Is there a better one?
It's not bad. Yeah, it's I don't know, Chris Jarrett.
Because now
Jeff Jarrett, I should say. Jeff Jarrett the Acclaimed. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, it's old school in a lot of ways too, which is cool. It's like the all it is like these two guys beating the fuck out of each other and trying to decide how far is too far. And yeah, no, it's great. It's really, really good.
Hangman in all of his promos was like, I'm tired of your whining. Nobody cares about your stupid head. No one cares about your concussion. And now Mox is going to have to go through one. Right? So now there's that whole aspect of it too. And now you have Hangman who has these torn emotions. Like, I got my revenge, but shit, did I really want to hurt the guy? And now and now all the talk was, well, they can't drag this out to the pay-per-view. And they didn't. They did the match on TV. But now there's an obvious rematch.
Now they're going to do it at the pay-per-view again.
Pay-per-view.
They're going to do it at the pay-per-view again for sure.
Yeah. And Mox gets his vacation that he didn't get when Punk punked. Because now he's going to go sell the concussion. And people want to doubt that this man knows how to book wrestling? Right? Like, you want to talk about, dealing with the circumstances you have. Mox thrusted into the MJF feud when it was supposed to be Punk. Mox not going on vacation when he was supposed to go on vacation. Hangman getting injured legit when he wasn't supposed to get injured. Leveraging that Hangman injury into a storyline. And then leveraging that into making sure Mox does get his time off, and then building that to another match that you're going to do at a pay-per-view that feels hotter than the first match. And people will tell you that Tony Khan does not know how to book wrestling.
Yeah.
92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
92% because of a bike?
Not just bikes. We also make treadmills and rowers.
Oh, let me guess, for elite athletes only, right?
Nope. It doesn't matter if you're an avid exerciser or new to working out. Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try Peloton bikes, tread or row risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
This week at Macy's, get an extra 20% off with your coupon or Macy's card. That's on top of already great deals, like 25 to 60% off cold weather gear for the whole family, 30 to 60% off select bedding and bath, plus 30% off select small appliances. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase, except gift cards, services, and fees at Macy's, Macy's Backstage, and Market by Macy's. More at Macy's.com/Star Rewards. Savings off sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
This is now the hottest feud in wrestling. It's the best feud in wrestling. And it popped the number. So it worked. So, I don't know. I think this feud has been brilliant and came together brilliantly last night. And this was just great TV. Really from start to finish. With a couple awkward segments here or there. But again, why is that like that? This is your rant now, and I'm going to step out of the way. Why does that always become the focus?
It always. And I don't know, we're probably guilty of it. We probably let it become a little bit of it, but it does feel like the discourse, it feels like good has become routine. So we just go, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, great match. Great, yeah, the Takeshita Danielson, that was awesome. Yeah, Hangman and Page, that was great. Yeah, the ladder match was great. All right, let's talk. I didn't like the MJF promo, so now let's talk about that every minute of the day. And it's like, man, that's such a small little piece of the entire...
Yikes, MJF called someone a rat. Yikes. Like, we're going to focus on that.
By the way, Joe, I don't know what your thoughts were. I didn't listen to the Thursday Dynamite review. That promo fucking rocked, and if you didn't think that promo rocked, I don't trust your opinion about wrestling either.
I don't know. Look, there's just a certain segment of the fandom that wants kinder and gentler heels. I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved when he picked
awesome, yes. I'm so glad.
One of my favorite bits.
I was like, well, Joe's going to definitely agree with me. And then I was like, oh, man, I don't know. And then I was like, wait, no, of course he's going to agree with me because he's a smart wrestler. Of course, MJF coming out there. And again, we could break down. I don't want to break down the entire promo because I'm sure you did it on Thursday Dynamite reviews. But like, again, like you said, that people,
they want to hear They want to hear your opinion.
People want my opinion. Okay.
They never get to hear your opinion on these Dynamites. So that's why we're doing this. So go for it, man.
What I will say, though, is that if, like you said, people want cuddly heels. They either want so evil, they're completely unrealistic, like Edge. putting Paul Bearer in concrete and killing him and holding his hair and going, they want that because that's so out of the realm of just whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like you don't suspend your disbelief. You don't actually hate the guy, but it's like, oh, he's bad. Okay, whatever. Or like you said, they want cute, cuddly, like a Seth Rollins heel who just kind of squeals and it's like,
I'm in on it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
wink,
in on
wink,
the
nudge,
joke.
nudge. I squeal. I'm a heel. Yeah. Then you have MJF come out here, and he is just detestable. He's a fucking asshole the whole way. He's calling out Freddie Prinze Jr. for no fucking reason. He's being an asshole to Takeshita, which, by the way, people saying, oh my God, what a yikes, what a bad promo that, oh, he's making fun of the fact that he doesn't speak Japanese or whatever. Guys, Takeshita spoke English at the end and said, kiss my ass. And the crowd went, yeah. Like, he proved that the heel was wrong and that he was an idiot. Because he goes, we speak English, or we speak American, you dumb Japanese guy. And then the dumb Japanese guy said, oh, what I said was, kiss my ass, or whatever, in perfect English. And the crowd went nuts. So MJF looked like a goofball. He looked like an idiot because he's an insecure fucking douchebag. And he got caught again. He always gets caught. He never actually succeeds in this shit. You know, he's the champion, but like it's all a house of cards, right?
Yeah, he's the bully who gets called out and then, doesn't. And that's why he ran in a dead sprint when Danielson finally came out.
Right.
Because
he knows deep down that he's not. Yeah. And then, it's he's talking about rats and stuff. You're, oh, my goodness. Oh, dear God. It's like, come on.
Nah, look.
He's being how annoying. I mean, he's trying to tell you, oh, yeah, you don't think I can last 60 minutes? And he goes with the lowest hanging fruit about talking about his dick and fucking people. It's just like, it's the.
Yeah, and that's the point.
Right. You're supposed to think it's stupid.
You're supposed to roll your eyes and say, this guy's an asshole. Like, yeah. It's, even the take a shitta thing was like, that's a Cornette thing, and that's the low hanging fruit.
Yes, low hanging fruit.
And everyone's like, well, he's tired of him talking about Cornette. He knows that Cornette is the biggest heel to everyone in that crowd.
Right, yes.
Why do you think it's why he associates himself with WWE and Cornette and Disco Inferno? Because he knows that those are heels to this crowd. That's the point. That's the heat. I don't want kinder, gentler heels.
Guess what happened? He came out, people chanted MJF. He told them to shut the fuck up. He did his promo. By the end, everybody was booing him and cheering for Takeshita and Bryan Danielson. If you don't get that, if you don't understand that, you're fucking lost, all right? He came out and they said MJF, MJF, MJF. And instead of just going like, yeah, or winking to the crowd, he said, hey, LA, you're stupid, but I have the mic, And from that point forward, he fucking turned him, and then they hated him at the end because he was being an asshole.
He turns them every time. he turns them every time. And then we always have, and there are real people out there who think he should be a babyface right now because the fans were cheering him when he came back. But he worked his ass off to turn those fans back against him. And people don't understand this. It's infuriating in a way. And like you said, he got Takeshita and Danielson over at the end of the day. Now, do I think it took too long for Danielson to come out? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That didn't make a ton of sense. They could have structured this a little differently. It took forever. Why was Danielson in the back listening to MJF run down Freddie Prinze Jr. and Ken Jeong? I mean, he logically, but sometimes in pro wrestling, what are you going to do? Irish whips don't make sense either.
I was going to say, guys turn around and hit the corner sometimes. So.
It's like, I popped big though when he was ripping Jong, and he was like, "We
can
this
go
is right up my alley."
Dr. Ken. Oh wait, no, we can't because it got canceled. Yeah.
I could have written that joke,
and then turns around and says, "Speaking of guys, I would like to get canceled, Freddie Prinze Jr." Yeah. I love. There's people, Joe. There's honest to God people that were just with their arms crossed, going,
He references a show. He references a sitcom that got canceled 6 years ago.
Dr. Ken.
It's so great.
He's
and did you see you see how Jong sold it too? He's
that was good. Yeah, he was just like, "Oh, you got me, you fucker."
I was getting text messages from people like, "Oh, how great was that Ken Jeong Dr. Ken reference?" I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "That's the kind of references we make to each other." Like fucking bringing up Dr. Ken from 6 years ago. That's such a good reference because it is a fucking bomb. You're not going to bring up Masked Singer. That's a success. You bring up fucking Dr. Ken.
Right. Yeah. He's on shows. That again, we're talking about this guy gets it. Ken is on things that you can bring up.
Successful things.
Many successful things.
Yeah.
He was on. He brings up Dr. Ken, which got canceled like 7 years ago after 1 season or 2 seasons or whatever. It was a historic bomb. Yeah, it's the best. I don't get it.
Ken sells it. Yeah. I love him selling it. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Scooby Dooby douchebag. This guy's lame. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, correct. You are correct.
You are right. Yes.
Yeah. It's awful. Yeah, it's awful. It's terrible. That's the point. I don't know. I liked it.
Great.
I just thought it was constructed.
It was long. A little long. We could have condensed it a little bit, but
I don't even mind the length necessarily. It was the construction of it. Like Danielson took too long to come out. It may have worked better if Danielson and Takeshita were already both in the ring. Then MJF comes out and does all that shit from the stage, while Danielson and Takeshita are like, "Come on, we just want to wrestle." I don't know. There could have been a different way to do it to where Danielson didn't take 6 minutes to come to the ring. But then when MJF ran out of there like a full sprint, I mean, that's just, it's just great stuff. And then the match obviously was fantastic. But Takeshita has to start winning, Rich. This guy has to win some fucking matches.
Yeah, we're getting to that point. Yeah, he's got to start. Yes, you can have him pass out from the pain but he's got to start. Yeah, he's got to start racking up some W's.
Yeah, and it's like it was one thing before he was signed and you knew he was going back to Japan. Well, he's your guy now.
Right. You got to the clock has started. The clock started for a year. Let's do this now.
And AEW fans are forgiving, and they're the best crowd in the world in terms of they have the kind of fans who will stay behind someone if they're a good wrestler, even if they're not pushed. But even they're going to have their limits, and they're going to start viewing him as a jobber if he doesn't start winning some matches. And then it's going to be harder to push him. They're still in a period now where you can turn up the dial on him and people will rally behind him. But you're with every loss, and I don't care about the YouTube match. Don't bring up the YouTube matches to me. They do not matter. Because he has lost every match on TV. With every loss, it makes it a little bit harder to then push him if you want to push him. So it's time for him to start winning some matches. My suggestion was a little 1 or 2 feud with Smart Mark Sterling and Tony Nese, because Nese could have a great match with him, and Nese loses to everybody, and that's Nese's job, and you can get him rolling with that, and then move him up to somebody a little higher on the card. But he has to start beating somebody on TV.
And then now let's get to what was not on this week's episode of Dynamite. We discussed it last week. In terms of how they were going to build this, the mystery opponent in the women's match, but then it was Toni Storm, but then Britt did the promo where she said the boss, and then Sheeta was upset during the promo, so we kind of connected some dots and said, okay, well, yeah, we're probably going to get Mercedes in some way or shape or form. She did not come out. They heavily teased it, obviously, on last week's Dynamite. They kept the mystery tag partner for a while. Then they announced Toni Storm was in the match, but, again, we let our imaginations run a little wild with the Britt promo. And then the match happened. It ended. No Mone, no Mercedes. Did not show up this week on Dynamite. So what do we think, A, how AEW handled this situation, and maybe B, should we close the door on her being in AEW whatsoever? I don't think that we should, but I don't know. I did think that this was handled a little strange. This whole situation with the mystery partner, and then kind of teasing her, and then obviously not delivering her this week.
The match and the mystery partner was announced before the Mike Johnson report that she would be at Wrestle Kingdom. That's number one. They revealed who the mystery partner was before the match hit the ring. They told you it was Toni Storm. That's number two. To me, the only misstep they made was Britt with the boss comment. We talked about that last week. I would not have done that. I would not have aired that. That was the only misstep they made here. You take that away, that's your own fault if you thought Sasha was going to be there, because they gave you no indication that she would be, and no reason to think that she would be. The boss line was a misstep. that gave people some expectations. Now,
and that's what AEW has done a lot. We always reference like the Punk thing, and they've done it a few times, that they'll usually lead. They have seemed to take the stance of, instead of just telling you this person's coming, we're going to put enough little crumbs that we know that you're smart enough to realize, oh, okay, I get what you guys are doing. Okay. And that's what they did with that Brit line. Anybody with any sort of modicum of thought said, oh, okay, we understand what's happening now. That's why that line's happening. And they've delivered on almost all of those so far. Every time that they've sort of put that crumb there, put that little nugget there, they've delivered on it. They didn't do that this time yet. Now, that's not to say that she won't come at some point and that line isn't going to have relevancy in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. But the fact that people sort of put two and two together of the mystery partner, the boss line. Yeah, you announced Toni Storm, but then there was Sheeta was upset in the promo. So you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the out or whatever. There was a lot of stuff kind of swirling around, and you logically thought the way that this company has done stuff that, okay, there's too much smoke to this fire. She's going to be there. And that was a misstep by doing that. If they just didn't do that boss line, we would come on the show. And we said that a couple weeks ago. We said it is not on AEW to tell you that she's not here, because they haven't said anything. They haven't told you she's going to be here. They haven't done anything to tell you that she's going to be here. So it's okay. When they do that boss line, that's when they kind of did the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's them sort of kind of telling you she's going to be there. And I don't blame people for them thinking that she was going to be there on Wednesday and getting upset that she wasn't there.
Well, I mean, who really got upset? I mean, I heard that when the lights went out after the match, because they were going to play a Rampage promo, that some people thought that maybe the lights were going out for her, and then they booed a little during the Rampage promo. But other than that,
yeah, Jericho got him right back. Afterwards. So
yeah, and it didn't affect the heat of the match at all. Like, the match was a good match and it was hot. So I don't know. Isn't this no harm, no foul? What's the problem here? Like,
I agree. I mostly agree. Yeah, we had to talk about it this week, obviously, because we've been strongly talking about it a lot. But I kind of agree. Like, I don't think if that boss line is there to sort of tease that she's going to come at some point, that's fine. I just think they should have just not put that line. If that line happens next week,
I agree. Yeah,
we're fine. You know what I mean? If that line happens next week, then we're fine. It's not that big of a deal. The fact that it was a mystery partner for a while in early January, when everybody knew that she was probably going to be free, and then once they get an announcer for Japan, and we're still, what you could have done if you really wanted to was announce Toni Storm a little bit earlier and kind of nip that in the bud if you want, and then just not do the boss line, and then it would have been fine.
Okay, listen, the boss line is the problem. Why do I have to change my storylines because people think someone's coming that's not? I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. Like, that wasn't their fault. Other than the boss line, none of this is on them, in my opinion. Now, the boss line changes things to some degree, but I still don't see why it's a wrestling promoter's responsibility to have to come out and say that someone isn't coming to your company. Because who's to say she's not anyway?
Right. And that's my thing, is like, that line might not be entirely a throwaway, but they should have just placed it in a better spot. That line would have worked next week, a week after, whatever. It gave people too much of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and that was probably a misstep from them, that they didn't. This was not the week to kind of tell people, hey, you never know. It left it open for interpretation that most people took. Most people took that as the interpretation, myself included, and then to not deliver on that is, it's just, you don't want to do too much of those sort of things. This is a company that's done a great job, a great job of earning and delivering on the trust of their customers, of their fans, and they shouldn't lose too much sight of that. They should at least keep that in mind moving forward. But ultimately, not that big of a deal.
I feel like if they were chanting her name during the match, or audibly booing, or something like that while the match is going on, I'd be more open to this. Had they just timed that Rampage promo a little different, none of this happens, and we're not even talking about it. We're talking about boos off air because the lights went out for a promo. Where if they just time the show differently and there's a different segment immediately following that women's match and the lights don't go out, there's no negative reaction whatsoever, and we're not even talking about this. Now, if there had been, like I said, chants during the show because people were, we want Sasha or something during the match, or even after the match, once the fans were annoyed that she wasn't there, if they had killed the next segment or the main event by chanting her name and all those things, then you could say, all right, they really fucked this up real bad. But to me, this is all no harm, no foul. What was the negative outcome here? Or what happened? We got a couple of boos when the lights went out that nobody heard from home. So, I mean, even from that standpoint, I don't see what's the damage? Like, who's angry? There were some people angry for 30 seconds last night in the building, and they quickly got over it and responded well to the rest of the show. So, I mean, if the lights went out and I was there, I would have been waiting for Sabu, honestly. Not Sasha, not Mone. I would have been like, oh, Sabu. Nope.
Finally it's Sabu. No, it's not.
No, not Sabu. Once again, I've been thwarted. But yeah, I don't know. And then maybe she is coming. And if she is coming, then the boss line was fine. I mean, because then she was tipping something off for down the line. But I don't know whether she's coming or not. Mielhausen said she's coming, but that guy's gotten some things wrong lately. So,
let's not take that one to the bank just yet.
Yeah. I don't know. There's people in the chat saying, oh, it's a bad story. Like, what was bad about it? It's not Khan's fault. You thought it was Sasha Banks. I'm sorry. It's on you. They never gave you any indication. It's not his fault.
What I would have done is maybe read the room a little bit better and not do the mystery. I know that the mystery opponent was probably to lead to Shida getting upset about it and getting annoyed or whatever. I would have just not done the mystery thing. If it was ultimately going to be Tony, just announce Tony and Saraya versus. Right,
okay, that's fine. I understand, but why do I have to book my company around some random free agent who's out there? And that there might be.
She's not a random. I don't know if I count her as a random free agent. That's a pretty big deal.
And no one even knew. No one knew when they announced the mystery partner. That was before the news broke she was going to New Japan. Nobody was talking about Sasha coming in before that. That wasn't a talking point anywhere. Not until the New Japan news broke. So now this guy's supposed to tear up his booking plans and his little story that he got because people might think something. I don't know. I don't know. I think this is. I don't think that's his fucking problem. I just don't. What, does every promoter in the world have to come out and say she's not coming now?
Right.
I mean, what are we doing? She's a nice wrestler and she's a star. She's not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, I think we overdo it a little with her sometimes too. And I do nothing but praise her. But I mean, for fuck's sake, it's not John Cena. I mean, we should pump the brakes a little with her too. I mean, all right, she sold 600 tickets. Good for her. I mean, this isn't Luthez. Let's relax. We don't have to rip up our booking plans to satiate some 16-year-old Sasha stans who might be a little angry because she doesn't show up on Dynamite. And now I'm getting annoyed. Craich. Like she's Jim Londos. All right, calm down.
That's a Jim Londos.
I mean, seriously.
People feverishly Googling Jim Londos to figure out who the hell is that.
Some people booed when the lights went out. They'll live. They like the rest of the show.
Yeah, it seemed like it didn't. I was kind of worried that it didn't affect the show. Like I said, Jericho came out and nobody cared anymore. Everybody was fine with it. So yeah, we'll see. And ultimately, it might not be all. It might actually pay off later. If she does come in, then the boss line will make a little bit of sense. If she doesn't come in, it's kind of like a weird line to do at a weird time to do it. But
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. What if she does show up? Then what are we even doing here? But yes, the boss, if she's not coming, that boss line was a mistake.
Right, that's done. I do a retake on that and say, let's maybe leave the boss line out for just now.
Yeah, I said that last week. Yeah, I would have taken that out. Absolutely. If she wasn't the part, I would have taken that out. No doubt about it. But at the end of the day, I don't think it really caused that much of a problem.
No. Ultimately, I agree. Yeah, ultimately, I agree. Real quickly, Ring of Honor. Returning to WrestleMania weekend, Supercard of Honor 2023 taking place Friday, March 31st, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. The show will take place in the Gallon Center. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Gallon Center at USC. I think it does about 10,000 for basketball, so probably 8,000 you'd say for wrestling. I don't know if they've ever had a wrestling show there to look at attendance wise, but that's on Friday, same day as SmackDown, as well as the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. So they're going up against it. And during the taping, Tony Khan said that it would feature talent from AEW as well as other promotions across the world. So Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor. Tony keeping the tradition alive. Last year it was they already had this thing booked. So, I'm going to run it anyway, but Tony's kind of always said that he didn't want to really run WrestleMania weekend. He wanted to stay away from it. But the opportunity to run Supercard of Honor WrestleMania weekend was too much for him to pass up. So he did it. And I'm fine with it. At least there's one good show on WrestleMania weekend. So.
Yeah. I mean,
at least one show will be worth watching. So it's cool.
It's going to be interesting to see what the show looks like on the Honor Club service. And if, I think people are going to be the people who didn't like ROH involvement on the AEW television, who think that that's not going to happen anymore because of the Honor Club show, I think are going to be disappointed.
Very wrong, yeah.
Because you cannot sell pay-per-views and you cannot sell tickets strictly with that Honor Club show. I mean, it helps, obviously. But you're going to have to get ROH back on the Turner channels in order to sell tickets and sell pay-per-views, which is what they did for their 3 shows in 2022 to massive levels of success. The 3 pay-per-views Tony Khan ran, the 3 ROH pay-per-views, were the 3 most successful pay-per-views in the history of Ring of Honor in terms of pay-per-view buys. I got some numbers right here. The Death Before Dishonor show in Massachusetts drew 3,100 fans. Do you know what Death Before Dishonor drew last year, Rich?
Death Before Dishonor last year, probably like 250, 400, somewhere in that range.
340 fans.
Yeah.
Final Battle drew 2,700 fans versus 1,600 last year. Supercard of Honor drew 2,000 fans. The point here is none of that happens if ROH doesn't have a presence on AEW TV. And I know not everyone out there has to give a shit about the business side of wrestling, and you are more than entitled to just give a shit about your personal entertainment. But, and here's the big but, this is a business. And clearly, pushing ROH storylines on AEW TV was good for business. It led to the 3 most successful pay-per-views in the history of Ring of Honor. It led to selling more tickets for Death Before Dishonor alone than ROH sold, I think, in total last year. So, and that's probably close, and I didn't do the math on it, but it's close enough to where it could be true. So, he's booked a 10,000 seat building for Supercard of Honor. So you're going to have to push ROH storylines on AEW television again. It's just the reality of it. And it worked last year, so they're going to go back to that well this year. What was also interesting is he said you're going to see AEW and other, I don't know if he named New Japan specifically, but international talent, because it's Supercard of Honor, and that's always been the tradition with that show anyway. But again, this guy is in the business of selling tickets and pay-per-views. So, I have a feeling Supercard of Honor is going to be a loaded show that has the potential to do mega business. And I think that Ring of Honor is poised to have a pretty big year from a ticket selling and pay-per-view standpoint, even bigger than the year they had last year, because they can still push the product on TV, even though it's going to annoy some people. They're going to have to deal with it. And now they have the weekly Honor Club show that they're going to roll out shortly too, which is going to help. And they're going to load these shows up. And I think they're going to do better year-over-year business, even without getting real TV yet. Because you still have that exposure on Wednesday and Friday nights that they're going to utilize. So the fact that they're running a 10,000 seat building tells you that Khan is not taking his foot off the pedal here. He's putting it down on the pedal and going full steam ahead with this Ring of Honor and trying to build it and build upon, the success that they had last year. So, and I'm all for it because I thought the Ring of Honor shows were tremendous. I thought all 3 of them.
Oh, they've all been great. Yeah. The pay-per-views have delivered big time.
Yeah. So, we'll see. And then, now with the additional information we have that he didn't even attempt to sell the television outside of his current television partners, maybe he could have sold it to someone, but he didn't want to piss anybody off. He doesn't want to go against them. He doesn't want to compete with his own television networks. And that might be the smarter long-term play. Time will tell on that.
Right. He might have to eat shit for a year here, but that it could work out better in the end.
And maybe as a result, he only puts 4,000 people in this 10,000 seat building because he doesn't have TV. And maybe he does eat shit for a while. But long term, it might have been the smarter play than to make your new bosses at Warner Brothers Discovery, think that you're competing with them with this alternate product because it's airing on, a competing network. So that ultimately might prove to be a wise move. But I'm encouraged that they're running such a big building because I want to see the Ring of Honor brand grow, and I want more good wrestling. I know that sounds wild.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
Okay.
Pump the brake. What are you saying? You like good wrestling?
I enjoy
you like accessible
good
wrestling.
Yes, I do. And this idea that they should just he should just get rid of Ring of Honor and take the tape library, fold it all into run everything with the AEW. I want more good wrestling. So even if it is foolish for Tony to do that, it's okay with me as a fan because I'm going to get another promotion that I can sink my teeth into.
It's not
and
your
enjoy.
money. It's also not your money. So I don't really care if it's foolish business wise. And I don't really think it is foolish business wise, but regardless.
I don't either, but I don't want to have that argument today. But the point here is the 3 shows that he's run have been fantastic. I want more of that. That was very encouraging. If those shows stunk, I wouldn't, but they were great. So there were 3 of the best pay-per-views of the year. So of course I want more of that. And I want to see what it looks like weekly. So I'm very encouraged. I genuinely do think Ring of Honor is poised for a pretty big year, even without the real TV deal. But we'll see.
Moving along here, let's talk about the FSM 50 just released this week at voicesofwrestling.com. You could find it there, voicesofwrestling.com. Just look up for the FSM 50, Defining Spirit Magazine 50. It obviously used to exist in the magazine. Magazine is defunct, and we've decided that Voice of Wrestling would carry the mantle, and we've been doing it for the last couple of years now. I think 3 years, maybe 4, doing it on Voice of Wrestling, but do have to say that despite the fact that the panel has always been secret, and we've sort of alluded to that, maybe we get involved in some of the, aspects of it that we don't know who that JL guy in that arcade. We revealed that this year we finally decided to let the cloak go, and we are part of the panel. So we voted on it. You voted on it. Or I voted on it. You did. Alan, Case Lowe from Voices of Wrestling, Scott Edwards, who writes a lot of stuff for Voices of Wrestling, Gerard, who co-hosts the Emerald Flow show here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. He also was a part of the panel, a few other people as well. But the list is out. You can read it at voiceofwrestling.com. As I said, it's the definitive ranking of the 50 best wrestlers in the world. And number 1, perhaps unsurprising to most people, Will Ospreay. Number 1, he won it a couple years ago as well. Got it back this year. Number 2 was Kazuchika Okada. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. You look at them in clusters of 5, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Do it that way.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
So you got Will number 1, Okada at number 2, Shun Skywalker number 3, Jon Moxley number 4, and the aforementioned Konosuke Takeshita at number 5. So that is your top 5 right there. Takeshita, Moxley, Shun Skywalker, Okada, Will Ospreay.
Yeah. So first thing I want to say is it's a 9-person panel. Okay. And the final list is not a reflection of any one person's tastes or list or anything like that. Do I agree with the final 50? No. I mean, look, do I think there'd be 9 stardom wrestlers in the top 50 wrestlers in the world? I think that's absurd, personally. But the panel spoke. Do I think there's too much Dragon Gate? I absolutely think there's too much Dragon Gate. I don't think Shun Skywalker's anywhere close to the 3rd best wrestler in the world. In fact, I didn't even have him in my top 50. But the panel spoke. So it's not about what I think, what Rich thinks, what any one panelist thinks. The panel spoke. And I do think, though, after getting some criticism last year, we may have acquiesced to the Joshi crowd a little too strongly here. There's a lot of, do we really need 9 stardom wrestlers plus some others on this? I don't think we do. But it is what it is. And, I think the Joshi is overrepresented. I think that some of the Dragon Gate wrestlers are way too high. And I think that what's underrepresented was Lucha and WWE. And I think that in the case of Lucha, we tried our best to get some Lucha experts to participate. They all declined. Or, and I get it. There's political reasons and things like that. I understand. I'm not mad at anybody for not participating. I wish we could have gotten a lucha-focused voter because it may have bumped some of the lucha people who did make the final list up a couple spots, and it may have gotten a few people on. So I think that's something that we should continue to try to work on. And, and I do think WWE was a little underrepresented. A little, I don't think there needed to be, 9 or 10 WWE people in the final 50, but, do I think some of the WWE wrestlers finished a little lower than they probably should have? I do. It's funny because earlier in this show, I just said that if I had the money, I would buy WWE and fold it. But when it comes to the FSM 50, and you know this, Rich, I'm usually the one advocating for WWE wrestlers. Like, I'm usually the guy arguing for Roman.
Right. A couple years ago, you're like, guys, we have to have Roman on this list. And we were all like, fuck you. No, we don't. So,
yeah. And it's now this year, I didn't have Roman in my top 50, and I didn't push for Roman because I don't think he deserved it this year. Because I don't think Roman had the matches this year. When you look at Roman's matches this year, he had a couple, like he had the Logan Paul match, and there were a couple others that were good matches, but I don't think Roman had his best bell-to-bell year because he's doing this character, and I think it's hurting his match quality. And this list is all about match quality. It's not about business. It's not about how big of a star you are. It's not about where you work. There's plenty of lists that factor that stuff in. WWE gets their flowers in plenty of places. Not everything is for them. Okay? Even though I'm arguing that they were a little underrepresented, not everything's for them. We talk about this during Hall of Fame season. These deep, nerdy things like the FSM 50 and the One Hall of Fame, that's not for you. WWE gets enough flowers from all corners. When Sports Illustrated or Sporting News put out their year-end list, or some of these other sites that are WWE focused, they get plenty of flowers. Sometimes some of these things can be for the niche, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Do I think they were a little underrepresented? I do. Did I have more WWE wrestlers on my 50 than anybody else had? Yeah, I did. I had 4, and I don't think anybody else had that many. And I think only 2 made the final list, Gunther and Sheamus. Very well earned in both cases. I had Cody 17th overall because I loved those Seth Rollins matches. And I thought, the ladder match with Guevara was great. And I'm one of the only people who had Seth on his list. So, the people who say that we're shitting on WWE, well, don't come to me. I mean, I usually am the one fighting for him. But anyway, those are my overall thoughts on the list. But I'm always proud of it, even with the minor things that I disagree with. And they are minor things. I'm not losing sleep at night because there's 11 Joshi wrestlers in the top 50, which I think is absurd, but it doesn't bother me to the core. But overall, yeah, the top 5, I mean, I had 4 of those 5 in my personal top 5. So I obviously have no issue with how the top 5 shook out, with the exception of Shun Skywalker. That one confuses me a little, but I accept that I'm the outlier.
Real quickly, since we do have a few more topics to get to and try to go kind of quick. And obviously you can see the whole list at voicesofwrestling.com, but you have Higuchi from DDT, Dax Harwood, number 7, Keito Kiyomiya, number 8, El Lindemann, and Shuri, first Joshi representative there at number 10.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Dax, I'll address that.
Right. Let's talk. That's what I circled is why Dax and where's Hair? Well, Hair's not going to appear. Why are the FTR not a team? Why is Dax by himself? Let's talk about that because that was a big discussion.
So the decision was made to split up Dax and Wheeler because Dax had all of those singles matches and Wheeler didn't. The only Wheeler singles match was against Dax, and Dax had all of those really cool singles matches. So a lot of people said, well, the Bucks are on there as a team and the Briscoes are on there as a team, but Dax is on there by himself and he's ranked 7th. And then Wheeler, who had the same year as Dax, he isn't in the top 50. He's in the honorable mentions. Well, the difference was Dax had such a deep singles resume that the decision was made to split them up. I pushed to rank Wheeler in the 50, but again, it's a collective. It's 9 people. And some people ranked them as a team. Some people ranked them apart. At the end of the day, the decision was made to split them. And Dax finished where he finished. And I think it was a fair spot. And we did make note of Wheeler in the honorable mentions. So I had Dax 13th on my list. So he actually finished better than he did on mine overall because he finished 7th. But that was the reason that FTR was split, similar to why the Lucha Brothers are split, because Pentagon and Phoenix have enough of a singles resume on their own to where they justify being split up. So it wasn't just FTR either. In the case where these tag teams have enough of a singles resumes on their own, we split them. But you look at like the Young Bucks, they never wrestle apart.
It'd be ridiculous. Yeah, it'd be ridiculous to set. And that in the past, I know when I voted in the past, I have put them as Matt and Nick, but I just always put them back to back because it's like I can't. Who in good conscience could be like, you know what? Nick is number 11, but Matt, he's 14. Like, what are you doing? I always put them back to back, and every year I would switch which order I did. All right, this year Matt's going to be, and then I was just like, well, just do the Bucks. Just say the Young Bucks. Like they are one. They are a symbiotic being. Like just vote the Young Bucks. Don't complicate it. But yeah, with Dax and Wheeler, you have to do that this year because they have very different years. They have incredibly different years.
Yeah. So to me, I agreed with, I split them on my list.
Yeah.
And
same.
Some people had them together, but the decision was made ultimately to split them up. And I think it was a decision that made sense.
Young Bucks, speaking of, they were number 11, Mike Bailey, number 12, Bryan Danielson at number 13, Suzuki, number 14, and number 15, Yuki Yoshioka from Dragon Gate.
Yeah, I voted for 3 of those people.
Yeah.
And had them relatively high. So, yeah.
And then moving on, what did I do? I stopped Yoshioka. Saya Kamatani at number 16, Gunther at 17, Chris Jericho 18, 19 was Shingo Takagi, and number 20 was Tomohiro Ishii was rounding out that. So I was kind of surprised that Shingo was as high as Shingo was because I don't know that he had a great. I don't know if he had a top 20 year this year.
I'll defend him. His first half of his year was as great as it always is. He had the Wrestle Kingdom match with Okada. He had the great New Japan Cup. Okay. He had the great New Japan Cup and G1. The back half of the year, he was mixed up with the King of Pro Wrestling junk. But you have to give Taichi credit for grabbing that shit by the foot and making the most of it. Because they had 2 excellent matches, including a match of the year contender in December with the King of Pro Wrestling stuff. So he didn't mail it in when he got that King of Pro Wrestling.
No, he did it about as good as anybody's done it. Yeah.
So Yeah. So I think when you look at his year as a whole, it makes sense. Now in that grouping, here's the thing. If you're telling me that there's 19 wrestlers in the world today better than Tomohiro Ishii, you're fucking out of your mind. So it's like, I get it. I think I had him 4th. Where did I have Ishii? I had him 4th. There's no fucking way there's 19 wrestlers on this planet better than Tomohiro Ishii. But look, again, that's why you have a panel, and people finish where they finish. Gunther, for people, we have a lot of listeners who don't watch WWE. Well-earned 7th. Trust me, I watched all the matches. Okay, guy had a great year. The Sheamus matches, if you haven't seen them, including the Imperium versus Brawling Brute stuff.
Yes, I will.
I'm telling you, it's worth your time.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I hate just about everything that company does, but those are fucking great. Those are great.
It was a great feud. It was only a month long. So you only have 3 or 4 matches worth to watch to get a sense for it. They had the 2 singles matches, and then they had a bunch of tags, TV tags, and then the 1 tag on the pay-per-view. I think it was Extreme Rules, if I'm not mistaken. But, well earned.
And then quickly here, the top 20 then. Rey Fenix, number 21. Diamante, 22. Kento Miyahara, 23. El Desperado, 24. And I believe there's a different way to pronounce this, but I'll just go with AZM, 25. There's another way to pronounce it. I forget. So
that's a really low finish for Kento Miyahara by his standards.
Right.
But he didn't have a vintage Kento Miyahara year. He just didn't. He was playing second fiddle to Jake Lee. He didn't have a lot of super high-end matches, so that would explain that if people are a little confused.
Azumi is how you pronounce AZM. So,
alrighty then.
I don't want to do the EITA. I knew it was something else, but I forget what it was there. Number 26, Julia. 27, Yuma Aoyagi. 28, Pac. 29, Mayu Iwatani, and then number 30, Aussie Open, the tag team of Aussie Open. So there you go, another tag team.
Another good example. Would have made no sense to split them. Would have made no sense. They wrestled together all year, and they had a great year.
All right, and then moving on, Kano at 31, Starlight Kid 32, Tetsuya Naito 33, Dragon Dia at 34, and Tam Nakano at 35.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did
there.
anything else on those?
I was asking you. You have anything else to add on?
Not really. No. Now we're getting to the point of the list where it's like, I don't know.
Honestly, Naito probably is better than a lot of people ahead of him.
Sure.
But that's a nitpick.
For sure. I thought this guy, I wrote the write-up for number 36, Josh Alexander, which I was just like, could not believe he finished 36. I was like, yeah, that's just, and I get it. People don't watch Impact. People don't know about Impact, but that dude, I mean, the first line of my thing is the unsung hero for wrestling in 2022. Josh Alexander was fucking great. 36 is that was the one if it was worth the time, I would argue about it, but it was just like, all right, whatever. But yeah, I really do think he needed to be a little bit higher. Sheamus at 37, Daniel Garcia at 38, Bandito at 39, and Shigehiro Irie at number 40. Anything on those before I round it out?
Alexander, if he had the same exact year in any other company, would have finished higher. I think there's a serious argument to be made that Sheamus is the greatest television wrestler in WWE history. With the amount of time he's been there and the quality of his output.
Yeah.
TV matches. Who's been better for longer?
And he's been doing it for probably about 15 years now at this point, basically. I just got done watching the 2010 Royal Rumble for Rumble Rewind on Flagship Patreon, and it's like Sheamus is like the champion. I'm like, oh my God, it's 2010, and Sheamus is like the champion of the company, and it's 2023, and he's still going. He's still there. So wild. I'm going to do the final 10 just all at once here. 41, Adam Page. 42, Ricky Knight Jr. 43, Atsuki Oyagi. 44, Vikingo. Again, that's probably way, way, way too low for Vikingo. He probably needs to be much higher on that list. But again, it was hard to get Lucha representatives. 45, CM Punk. 46, the Briscoe Brothers. 47, Swerve Strickland. 48, Takuma Fujiwara. 49, Mirai, I believe is how you pronounce it. Sorry if I'm doing that wrong. And the number 50 was Jamie Hayter.
Hangman, if people are wondering, like, wow, he had all these great matches. Quantity matters.
Yeah.
And he just didn't wrestle a ton of matches. And really, there was a lot of good spirited debate about where to put Hangman and whether to get him in there at all.
I mean, he was really good for half the year. But then as pointed out by AC in our is that he didn't wrestle 8 matches total the entire second half of the year from June on. Like that's I mean, there's when you're talking about the list of the top 50 wrestlers in the world, you got to think about that. You have to think about that.
Quantity is going to matter. And, the Briscoes too. I mean, they had the 3 super great matches and then a bunch of stuff that either people didn't watch or didn't make an impression. Vikingo, I mean, I had him at 42. I don't know. I think the 40s, to me, he's still a guy who just does a bunch of spots. Now, they're incredible dynamic spots and he absolutely deserves. Now, listen, if you're one of the top 50 wrestlers in the world, that's incredible.
Yes, that's good.
We shouldn't act like the bottom half of the list are people who finished in last place. They finished ahead of 99.9% of all of the wrestlers on earth. So that's important to consider too. Swerve Strickland was someone I fought for pretty hard. And was an argument I won. Now, some of the honorable mentions were people I fought for, and there were arguments I lost. I fought for Atlantis Jr. I thought his summer was great. The mask versus mask match was great. We got him in the honorable mentions at least. Basically, if you look at the honorable mentions and the people who wrote the profiles for the people in the honorable mentions, those are people that those people fought for that basically didn't, you know what I mean? That's kind of like what that is, So, and the honorable mentions were Atlantis Jr., Commander, Cash Wheeler, Minorita, Orange Cassidy, Cody Rhodes, Hiroshi Tanahashi, not making the top 50. That was an Allen call. He wanted to go with Jamie Hayter, and he did it. He's the boss, and he showed some guts. I like that. Chihiro Hashimoto and Miyu Yamashita, who I can't tell you the first thing about either of those people, but they were honorable mentions as well. So, Rich, anyone that you had on your list that maybe you thought got screwed here? Or
yeah, I mean, I mentioned Josh Alexander there. He was a guy that I just think needed to be higher. I couldn't believe
you had him 11th.
Yeah,
by the way.
I just thought he was going to be a lot higher than he was, and I was kind of stunned. I was like, wow, okay, so I think there's a lot of people who probably did not watch Impact that much this year. I don't blame them, but I was kind of surprised. And then Punk was somebody I had pretty high as well. I thought he had a really, really, really good. But again, longevity does matter and quantity does matter, and basically nothing from him after September. But I thought what he did in the first half of the year was pretty fucking great. I mean, when you consider that, I think people forget that we've been so caught up in what Brawl Out and all that sort of stuff. Go and look at the year the guy was having to that point. He was having a fucking great year already. I mean, really was, yes, with a bunch of injuries and stuff, and that does throw it a bit of a wrench in there. But no, and I was with you on Cody as well. And I don't love those Hell in a Cell matches as much, but I ranked him 30th, so I was kind of surprised. But again, yeah, if longevity does matter and quantity does matter, he's a tough one too. But
quantity hurt him for sure.
Right.
You had Punk 19th. I had Punk 10th. No. I'm sorry.
I had Punk 10. Yeah.
I had Punk 19th. Yeah, I had it backwards. I had him 19th. You had him 10th, but we both had him in the top 20. I had Yoshinari Ogawa on my list. He always finds a way.
Got
him 48th.
Got to get him on there.
I had Yoshinobu Kanemaru on my list. I had him at 46th. So there were some guys I had on my list. Hey, for all of you who think I hate Jack the Jungle Boy, I had him 37th. Okay, so I'm fair. Those are just some names that I had that ultimately didn't make it. Did Eddie Kingston make the final list?
I didn't remember. I don't remember saying his name. Let me double check.
No, he didn't.
No,
yeah,
he
I
did
had
not.
Kingston on my list. He had some stinkers like the barbed wire match with Jericho, but
yeah, I had him 43rd. I have him 43rd. I thought it was pretty solid.
Well, if you guys look, he lists everyone who got at least one vote. So you can kind of see the diversity in the voting when you look at that list, because I don't know the total number, but I would have to think it was well into the hundreds of voters well into the hundreds of total wrestlers that received at least one vote. And that's in the article. So look, 50 wrestlers is very exclusive. Okay. It's not easy to make this list. It's even harder to finish high on the list. When you've got people like Hiroshi Tanahashi who are being cut, it's not easy. So, it's not reflective of any one of us. And I think that's what's great about it. And we're going to work hard every year to get even more diverse with the panel. We had one voter who dropped out, and we added 3 or 4 voters this year. And we really tried hard to add some others. And it'll continue to evolve on a yearly basis as we it's never going to be perfect. I don't think the list is ever going to represent anybody's and that's good that it's not a list that represents anyone's exact sensibilities as a fan.
That would be stupid. That'd be boring and stupid.
That means it's diverse and it's fair, right? If there should be wrestlers on this list where you're like, wow, this person's the 38th best wrestler in the world, and I've never seen them wrestle. Because then maybe you're going to go watch them, and you'll discover something. So that's all a good thing. But there were still too many Joshi. Anyway.
So that's the FSM 50 again, voicesofwrestling.com to see that entire list, as well as the write-ups for each of those, including the honorable mentions. All have write-ups for them as well. So let's we're up against the clock here, about a half an hour. We were going to take some time to talk about the PWI awards, but I don't think we have time for that. So you know what you're going to do? Instead of worrying about most improved 2022 wrestler Mandy Rose, what you're going to do instead is you're going to go to flagshippatreon.com and you're going to read Joe's much, much, much more prestigious 2022 Flagship Awards, which are going on right now. How many more of those do you have left to go? You've done Tag Team of the Year, you've done Feud of the Year, you've done a bunch of different things, most overpushed, most underpushed. A ton of different awards are up there. How many more do you have in the coffers, or are we winding down finally?
We're winding down. I think I have like 3 more. I have Executive of the Year, which I'm doing instead of Booker and Promoter of the Year. I'm just balling it all into one. So the Executive of the Year is coming out next. And then really that's it. I've got Wrestler of the Year. I'm not doing Match of the Year because we do that as a different thing. So there's not going to be a match of the year. I'm not going to reveal my match of the year until we do it when we do our yearly paywall show on that. And I think there was one more promotion of the year, which I don't know if that's going to get a dedicated article. I might tack that on to the end of the executive of the year article and just do a short list, because I'm going to be honest, there's not a lot of promotions I liked in 2022.
Probably not
so
a very long list. Yeah.
It's hard for me to write about a bunch of promotions I liked when I really only like 2 or 3 all year long. So I may add that on, but it looks like maybe only 2 left, unless I'm forgetting something, and I don't think I am. Let me check my notes real quick. So wrestler of the year, obviously, is what I'm going to end it with. And I've already started writing executive of the year. I'll probably tack promotion of the year onto the end. Yeah, and then that's going to be it. I'm not doing match of the year. I'm not doing most improved because I was struggling to come up with enough good candidates. And everything else I've done. I did rookie, tag team, TV show, best big event. So they're all there on the $10 tier. They're all write-ups that I put plenty of effort into. People seem to be really enjoying them. So, go check them out. And then I'm probably going to have 2 more, possibly 3 if I decide to do a full write-up for promotion of the year. But it's mostly just going to be me bitching about how much I do most of the promotion. I don't know if I'm going to waste my time. Improved. I actually see where they're coming from. Even though I gave her my most over-pushed and buried NXT and called it the worst TV show, and I gave Halloween Havoc the worst major event, PWI still works kayfabe into their shit. And Mandy Rose had a year-plus women's title reign.
Right.
So
from doing nothing in WWE to becoming, a dominant champion for 400 days or whatever it was. I get it.
Yeah, so from a kayfabe standpoint, and they do weave in, a little bit of but from that standpoint, it's fucking PWI. They're going to give all their awards to WWE, and they're going to give some scraps to AEW, and you might be lucky to get like a rookie or some down ballot award to announce to maybe an Impact or something, and that's what they do, and they base it on kayfabe. So yeah, is it funny? Yeah, it's funny. It's funny and interesting in the same way that the PWA 500 is. You don't get mad at it seriously. You can't. If you're getting mad at the PWI 500,
you really got to look in the mirror. Yeah, that look in the mirror. Yeah,
or the PWI awards. I mean, it's just, can you have a laugh? Sure, but from their perspective, I think she's like, if you're just looking from kayfabe's point of view, it's probably a pretty good pick. I mean, she wasn't being pushed, and then she was a champion for 417 days. So I don't know.
So
what we'll do is, Rich.
Yes,
we'll go over next week, and you can give your picks since you haven't really talked about any of that. So you've got a week to think about that,
okay?
And you can argue with me and tell me where you think I'm wrong, and kind of throw your picks at everybody, because I think people would be interested to see what you think about some of these.
Sure, I will do that. We'll put a pin in that, and then when you finish,
we don't have time today, but
yeah, no, we'll do that next week for sure. But you can read all those at flagshippatreon.com. Bunch of other stuff up there right now. Thursday Dynamite reviews every single week. I finish up the Goldberg series, Goldberg 173-1. The final episode is up there, talking about December of 1998, the finger poke of doom, Kevin Nash defeating Goldberg to end the streak. It is January. It is Rumble season, so I'm going to do some Rumble rewinds as well. So we'll have a couple of those coming out in the next few days. I've already gotten them recorded and talked about, but just need to find time, an open day to actually release these episodes, because we've had so much stuff up there every single day for the last. So I'm trying to space it out a little bit, but I'm just going to probably just say, fuck it, throw them out there, because wrestling's never going to slow down. But yeah, a lot of stuff. A insane value for $5 or $10. $10 obviously gives you everything, gives you the live shows. If you want to listen to the Flagship Live, you can do that on the $10 tier. You can all the written content on the $10 tier. Then when we do stuff like we did with the breaking news audio this week, where we discussed the rumors and the reports of the WWE Saudi deal and Stephanie McMahon, leaving WWE. We did that on Tuesday night live for the $10 subscribers. So a lot of stuff you can get for $10. $5 gives you all the bonus audio. $10 gives you everything that we do over at flagshippatreon.com. So, all right, let's get to Japan here. We got a couple of Japan topics. I think we can kind of cruise by these pretty quickly. at least in a half an hour. But it is the new year. It is 2023. And that means we have to do our yearly tradition where we watch 01's Happy New Year show from January 1st, 2023. And Joe, I don't know if in 2024 I'm going to keep the tradition alive. Didn't love the 01 show.
Well, tell people why you didn't like it.
It's just not that good. The opener, I like the opener. It was Ryo Hoshino, I believe, and Yuki Toki. And I believe this is Yuki Toki's debut. People are telling us this is his absolute 100% debut. He was good. He was solid. Like that's a guy that, but again, you're in the 01 dojo. So it's like, I don't know. Should I really care about this? Like, am I ever going to know about Yuki Toki in 2 years now or whatever? But he was good. He was good. And Hoshino was solid as well. So I like that match. Abe is always a guy that I think I hate, but then I watch him and I like him for some like. What do you think about him?
Fuminori Abe?
Yeah. Do you like him or don't like him?
I like him. Yeah, I think he's good.
I think I don't like him, but then I watch him and I'm like, wait, I like him because I see him on a match graphic and I go, man, Abe. Ugh. But then I watch him and I'm like, why do I say that? I like Abe a lot. Every year I do this. I don't know why. And every time I see him wrestle, I'm like, here we go. And then I like him. So I don't know. My brain's there's something about my brain that makes me think I hate him, but I don't actually hate him. I thought that match was pretty good. They just beat the shit out of each other. This is heavily clipped. The show was heavily clipped, so we didn't see all the matches. We only saw a couple of minutes of every match. So I don't know if in the 6 minutes that weren't available that it was really terrible or whatever. But for the 7 or so minutes that we did see, Abe and Nagayo, I don't know what his name was. He looked pretty solid as well in that one. And otherwise, I didn't really like much else from the show. I thought the main event, Masato Tanaka versus Masa Kitamiya, I was really excited about that because no matter what, when a Happy New Year comes, when a New Year show happens and it's 01, that main event is always going to kick ass. It's going to be Masato Tanaka versus somebody. You know, it's Masato Tanaka versus Takeshi Sugiura, and they're going to go out there and beat the living shit out of each other for 20 minutes, and it's going to rule, and it's going to make me think, you know what? Yes, this is a throwback to a simpler time in Japanese wrestling when guys would just go out there and beat the living shit out of each other. And these guys kind of tried that. They kind of did it, but I talked about it before, and I think I'm ready to declare it officially. I think Masato Tanaka is completely washed. I think it's over. And that's fine. He lasted like 22 years longer than everybody thought he was going to last, but I think he's completely washed. And Masa Kitamiya is not off the hook either. I thought he was very low effort in this match. Nowhere near what like a Sugiura or those other guys when they come in there and they bust their ass in this main event. Masa Kitamiya looked like a guy who was working Noah later this day and wanted to get out of here and get to Noah as quickly as possible. I don't think he gave a lot of effort too. So the match ultimately, it was okay. It wasn't bad, but I expect a lot more out of these New Year main events, and I just did not get that with Tanaka and Kitamiya. And otherwise, there was not a whole lot else on the show that really, really did it for me. Where'd you land on 01's Happy New Year?
All right. This is going to be interesting because I thought the show was good. And I almost put the main event in my notebook.
Wow. All right. So, we have a little bit of difference. Let's go.
The only thing that stopped me was it was so clipped that I can give a little leeway, but I can't officially rate a match where that much of it, where 7 minutes is clipped off. I can't do it. But what I saw of the main event, Tanaka and Kitamiya, I have not a complete opposite opinion of you because I do think Tanaka is finally starting to slow down. I agree with you there. I thought this was the best Masa Kitamiya has looked at maybe years. I thought he was so great in this match. I thought his expressiveness, his mannerisms, the way he worked the legs, stuck with that plan throughout the match. I thought the match had a very clear story and psychology to it. And of course, Tanaka makes the comeback and win. But I came away very impressed with Kitamiya's effort. And we have complete opposite takes on that from that standpoint. To you, he was a guest star, dropping in, taking a check, and getting the hell out of there. I was very impressed with him. I mean, I thought he looked better here than he's looked in the vast majority of his Noah matches over the last few years. So I really enjoyed the main event. And as far as the show as a whole, yeah, that Fuminori Abe versus Satsuki Nagao match was I think it was 11 minutes and 56 seconds, and I think we got about 8 minutes of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
I was trying to time out. Once I realized how clipped things were, I kind of tried to keep like a mental note or a little bit of a stopwatch to say, all right, well, and then go back and look and say, okay, well, I only missed 4 minutes of the match. So you know what? Unless those 4 minutes were absolutely fucking terrible, this match is pretty damn good for what I saw.
Yeah, this again. If more of this match aired, I may have gone notebook on it. I thought it was that good. I may have gone like 4 flat because I thought, particularly the closing stretch was excellent. And I don't know much about this Nagayo, but Abe is a guy I like, and whenever an astronauts tag pops up where he teams with Nomura, I make it a point to watch. In fact, I saw a couple astronaut matches when I was finishing up my 2022 watch list and from Big Japan, which, by the way, that Dopey Tag League, I think, is still going on. That started in September. Big Japan Tag League. No way. They're just wrapping it up now. Yeah. Like it either just finished or it's starting to finish up now. The opener with Ryu Hoshino and the guy making his debut, Yuki Taki, he was wearing like the fuchsia.
Yes.
Rick
it might have thrown you off because the guy in the black tights was actually not the veteran, but a guy who's wrestled a bunch. And then the guy making his debut was wearing like purple fuchsia tights. So
it looked like those tights Rick Martel used to wear as the model.
Yes,
that kind of color.
Exactly. It might have been those ones.
Those two guys kicked ass. And
whenever
I watch matches like this, I think to myself, I wish there was a Japanese promotion where everybody just wrestled like they're young boys. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like these guys get gimmicks and then they get lazy. Or they drop the fundamentals, or they stop doing the basics. I would watch a whole card of matches like this. I would watch a promotion of matches like this. And I understand that's not feasible because then guys aren't marketable. And I understand that. But if there was a small niche promotion where everybody just wrestled the way that they wrestled when they were young boys.
Yeah, they just all run out real quickly, get in the ring, put their hand up real fast, go, the bell rings, and then they just go at it for 6 minutes, and then they get out. They do drop kicks, they go nuts, they go crazy, and then,
And people might be like, oh, well, that's shoot style. No. I don't want shoot style, though. I want wrestling, but just, no 100% wrestling, 0% bullshit. Like this opener and like the New Japan openers and like the New Japan versus All Japan stuff that's happening right now. I mean, I'm into that. As far as stuff on the rest of the card, this Shoki Kitamura, he beat Takuya Sugawara and he won their junior tournament at the end of last year. That was that belt he was carrying around. He's obvious. He's going to be Tanaka's next challenger. I think he's going to win the title because he's got that look in his eye like he knows he's getting pushed.
Yeah. He was impressive. I didn't love that match, but he by himself was impressive looking.
Yeah, and he's got some charisma to him, and I think he's the next guy that they're going to give a genuine push to here. I would not be shocked at all if he beats Tanaka for the title. The junior match with the kid that trained with Marvelous for some reason. I guess they train some male wrestlers from time to time. The Leo Osaka.
Astro Man? Oh, you're talking about Leo Osaka. Yeah.
No, Osaka, the guy who won the title, I think he came out of Marvelous, which is bizarre. Okay. And he beat Astro Man for the junior title, and Osaka is aligned with Kitamura in this promotion because Kitamura was at ringside. I thought the junior match was good too. So I really loved the Abe match. I really loved the main event. I thought the junior match was good. I thought the opener was good. The rest of it, there was some junk that I could have lived without. The clipping really annoyed me with the 6-man tag with Chris Weiss, Daisuke Sekimoto.
Yeah, you didn't see any of that match.
We didn't see Aja Kong at all.
That's right. Yeah,
if you noticed.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, she didn't get in at all, or at least in what we saw.
So it was Weiss, Sekimoto, and Tomohiko Hashimoto versus Aja Kong, Rakia Fudo, and Sutaga Sato. And the way it was clipped, I swear to you, I don't think we saw Aja Kong tagged in once. And then they went to the finish, and she was on the floor selling. And then she came in after, Weiss, Sekimoto, and Hashimoto won. It was only a 7-minute match, and the way they clipped it, we barely saw Aja Kong wrestle at all. And I was looking forward to seeing Aja Kong mix it up with like Daisuke Sekimoto.
Yeah. Daisuke Sekimoto and Aja Kong sounds like something I want to see, but yeah, unfortunately.
So anyway, I like the show, and I think, Kitamura, I think it looks like they're going to push him, and he looks like he has good energy and some good charisma. And I like the main event way more than you did. I thought the tag title match was junk. Those Kubota brothers can go kick rocks. They're
oh my God. There's not enough time in my life to watch those dudes in their fucking basketball jerseys or whatever. Get out of here. Go away.
With their shitty look and just like their CZW bullshit. Just they look like shit. They don't, the wrestling is nothing special. It's just, but you're going to get indie scummer shit on 0-1 show.
Oh, for sure.
Can't avoid it.
Sure. Yeah.
There
was a guy in that one. I think it was the second match, and I don't know his name. I think it was Joe Hyung-hoo or whatever. Fuck it, one of the worst guys I've ever seen. He was the guy wearing the mask.
Joe Kyung-ho.
Yeah, the guy wearing the mask was so bad.
That match didn't do anything for me either. That 6-man tag. Yeah, with like the hip hop guys.
Yeah,
guys doing the hip hop gimmick.
Yeah, that was
yeah. It's
0-1. It's 0-1, man. I get it. It's fine. It's 0-1.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just indie style bullshit. They have to fill the card somehow. But the stuff that mattered, I thought was good. So I don't know. I like the show and I like the main event. So,
okay, so I guess we'll let the tradition continue. It's fine. It's fine. I want to like 0-1. There's parts that I like about it. So you know what? That's fine. We'll keep it going. I like it too. I'll refresh to see if they pop up ever again. They won't. But
I think they made tape 9 times last year, including the New Year's show. So
now that a lot of that though, they were doing stuff with Wrestle Universe, right? Well, I meant Wrestle Universe too. And joint shows with Big Japan, and I think their New Year's show last year was on Wrestle Universe. Yes, yeah,
but I don't think it was this year.
It was not. No,
is what it was. They may have done stuff with DDT too. I can't really remember, but they almost never make tape. And when they do make tape, sometimes it's like baffling the shows they pick to make tape. Like they're not major shows or anything. They're just like, I'll tell you what though, they drew almost 1,000 fans to court.
They did. It's always a hot crowd. And the crowds are always into it. There's always, it's always a good crowd, a hot crowd. So I wish they did make, honestly, I wish I could watch them monthly. You know what I mean? That'd be fine. Like that'd be a perfectly time to say, you know what? Yeah. Nothing's really working for me. Let's see what's going on in 0-1. But it never happens and it sucks.
Right? Like, if Kitamura Tanaka makes tape, I'm going to seek it out, but it's no guarantee.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Yeah. Large swaths of the year will go completely on 0-1 and it's rough, but it is what it is. So.
And we'll see you in a year.
See you January 1st, 2024. We'll discuss this. So, all right, let's quickly, a couple minutes left here, run down these New Japan cards coming up over the next few weeks here. So we'll start with the New Japan versus Noah card. It's night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom 17. But Joe, are you with me? I can't in good conscience call this night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom.
Nah, they can get lost with that. This is not Wrestle Kingdom.
No,
this is not Wrestle Kingdom.
It's not even like remotely. If you want to have it like the week of, you want me to call something on January 21st Wrestle Kingdom Night 2? No, I'm not doing it. It is from Yokohama Arena. Full cheering will be allowed, as we've heard. So that is good. That gives me a little bit of hope. Major matches, Naito versus Kano, a lot of singles matches. If you're thinking, oh man, here we go, we're going to have another one of these joint show things with a bunch of tag matches, not the case at all. You have, in terms of singles matches, Naito versus Kano, Shingo versus Nakajima, Sonata versus Soya, Hiromu versus Ohara, Bushi versus Tadasuke, and El Desperado versus Yohei are your singles matches. And those all sound, I'm pretty into every single one of those matches. Where you land on those?
Well, yeah, you got the LIJ versus Kong matches. Okay, right off the bat. With Naito, saw this, but when Kongo confronted LIJ at the presser at the Tokyo Dome, Shingo had one of the greatest lines. So Kongo comes marching in with their red jumpsuits, right? And Shingo grabs the mic and he goes, "What are you guys doing here? This is the Tokyo Dome. This isn't Korakuen Hall." And I'm just like, that is such a great burn. Yeah. You guys don't belong here. This is the Tokyo Dome, you little Noah scummers. But so we're going to get that Shingo Nakajima match. And I mean, he has to win because he's facing Okada after that. So that leads to the question, is it possible? Can Kano beat Naito? And, there's some people saying that they're tipping off a draw with the 30-minute time limit. I say if you're going to do a draw, you may as well just have Kano beat him. I mean, if Naito's ever going to lose that kind of match,
it's fine.
This is the time to do it. He's not really being pushed anyway. So
no,
and then he could get the win back later in the year.
I'm with you. It's Naito right now, and this, if you're going to have Naito lose like this match, this is the time to do it. He's not being pushed in anything big, and you could build it up as a series. That's a big quote unquote upset. That's going to result in probably a lot of people getting interested in a rematch. It's probably going to other matches. Like, no, this is the time to do that, because Shingo, absolutely non-negotiable, 0%, cannot lose that match. Cannot lose that. So you got to give him something. So yeah, Naito and Kano, I think that's the best way to do it. Have Kano beat Naito and set up either a series or something like that. That to me makes all the sense in the world, because yeah, Shingo cannot lose to Nakajima. I don't think they would have him lose to Nakajima. Naito can lose to Kano. That's fine.
Now, would it stun me if LIJ wins all 5 matches? No, it would not.
Wow, all 5, you think?
Wouldn't surprise me.
You don't think Tadasuke can beat Bushi?
Is this a prediction from me? No. Would it surprise me? No. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't think they will. But find me the wins.
I mean, you got Kano over Naito. That's one I can give you.
You know what's weird? That's the most likely one, and that's crazy.
Right. That's what I'm saying as I'm going through this. Ohara's not being a Hiromu. No chance in hell. I don't think Tadasuke could beat Bushi. That's fine.
He could, yeah. It doesn't really matter. But Tadasuke is so low ranked that I don't know if New Japan will go for that.
That's tough. And I don't think you have Soya beat Sonata. I think Sonata's got to beat Soya.
There's not a chance in hell. If Soya beats Sonata, then Sonata is 1,000,000% beating him again at some point down the line. New Japan's not letting that hang. So Kano might be the most likely one. And again, Naito would have to beat him later on somewhere. So I don't know. This is a really fun card, though. I mean, much better than last year with all the.
Joe, you still there?
Am I on the air?
Yeah, sorry. We've been having some connection
problems
in the last couple of minutes of the show. So sorry. Yes. I think you said this is better than the show last year that had a bunch of tag matches, and I agree. And even the tag matches in this one aren't too bad. Like Okada and Makabe versus Kiyomiya and Inamura. Like that's pretty fun. Like I could get down on that, and some of the other stuff on the card I definitely enjoy as well. So that's his New Japan Noah card. January 21st, Yokohama Arena. Full cheering allowed for that show, and I believe, forget if that's a pay-per-view, right? Is that one of those ones that you can't get? No, you can just stream it on New Japan World, I think, right? I don't know. I guess I don't know. I suppose I should look that up.
I think it's on New Japan World and on New Japan World Live, but I'm going to double check right now. Okay. Oh no, it's a pay-per-view on New Japan World.
That's okay. That's what I thought. I thought it was
$29.50. Yeah, so it's live. And then it's in Japan later. This is just a mess. It's just a mess. I guess New Japan World and Wrestle Universe are protecting each other or something.
Right.
But if you're in America, you could watch it live for about $30. So that's the deal with that.
And then real quickly before we get out of here, the New Beginning cards coming up. We'll start with New Beginning in Nagoya. That's January 22nd. Nothing huge on that show. I think your biggest match that you're going to look at is the KOPW Championship. Great Okan versus Shingo. They're currently voting on what the match stipulation is going to be. So you got that. Otherwise, a bunch of tag matches up and down, kind of building up the rest of the New Beginning shows.
Yeah, just do the title matches and the singles for these shows.
Yeah,
that's all we
just
need to
make it
talk
easier. New beginning in Sapporo, night 1, February 4th. This is sweet. Oscar is here, and he's facing the Great Okan. I am in for that match. February 4th, Oscar versus Great Okan. You also have Will Ospreay versus Taichi, Shota Umino versus Tetsuya Naito, and then the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag titles. Dookie and Kanemaru go in for the titles against Catch 2-2.
Yeah, that all looks super interesting. So that show should be a lot of fun.
New beginning in Sapporo, night 2, February 5th, the very next day. Title matches, you have IWGP Tag Team titles, TMDK, Shane Hayes and Mad Monkey Nichols versus Bishiman, Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto. New Japan World Television title, Tomohiro Ishii getting the title defense, or doing title shot, I should say, against Zack Sabre Jr. And then IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, Yo versus Hiromu is going to be the main event for New Beginning in Sapporo night 2.
I think the tag titles are changing. I don't see the other two titles changing, but I think they're going to give TMDK a push here at the start of the year. So I see them winning the tag titles on this show.
And then the final New Beginning is New Beginning in Osaka, February 11th. And the singles matches there, Master Wato versus Taiji Ishimori, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenta. Hopefully they don't kill each other this time. Loser leaves Japan, Hikuleo versus Jay White. Never Openweight Championship match, El Phantasmo versus Tama Tonga. And then your main event, IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, Shingo Takagi versus Kazuchika Okada.
This is a great looking tour. I know we talked about it last week, but to me, the arrow is pointing up with New Japan. This tour looks great. I mean, there's interesting matches on all of these shows. You toss in that Noah versus New Japan show on the 22nd or whatever it is, or the 17th rather, or the 21st. I'll get it right the third time. And then you combine it with these New Beginning shows. There's title matches on all of these shows. There's non-title singles matches, which is just such a rarity in New Japan. It's just the booking feels fresh. There's fresh directions. The loser leave town match. I think it's a little curious that the same news site reported within days of each report that both Hikuleo and Jay White have interest from WWE. I find that very curious. And that's not a knock on the site. That's, I believe, New Japan is, doing what wrestling promoters do. And feeding or leaking those stories
stuff
to create interest in the match. Yeah. I mean, it's so now it's like, the Hikuleo story broke and people were like, oh, well, Jay White's going to beat him. And then a couple days later, WWE is interested in Jay White. And, this is classic pro wrestling, not even just pro wrestling, just classic ways of using the media to your advantage, right? To plant stuff with the media, and in both, I'm not even saying these stories aren't true, and they very well could be, but that's it's just very curious.
It's the name of the game. That's the name of the game, and it's so funny that people fall into it all the time, and then it's like, this is weird. So they both have interest in WWE. It's like, isn't that funny how both the guys in the Lose Leave Japan match are being courted by WWE. Huh.
Yeah, and if New Japan or any other promotion wants to feed me stories, I'll post them too.
Yeah,
I'll post them too. So anyway, yeah, and Shingo and Okada, which then presumably Okada will win that, but they're saying whoever's champion at that time will headline Battle in the Valley, which is now sold out. After the Mone announcement.
Excuse the who?
I said Mone. Is that wrong, Rich?
I believe that's wrong, yeah.
Oh, Mone.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. So, and then a lot of the Sasha stands melted down because now they're worried.
Oh, I didn't see this. Oh, they're worried.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're worried that she won't be main eventing now because there's an IWGP title match, and they flooded the mentions of New Japan saying that she better main event. She's the biggest star. She sold all the tickets. This is bullshit. Why are you adding Okada? So that's kind of the rub of bringing Mone into your promotion.
Yeah, you get those people.
It brings her mutant fans. You know, they come in and a lot of them are kids, okay? And they're unreasonable. She's not main eventing over the IWGP title, nor should she. I mean, you know, learn how this works in this promotion. So, you know, there's that element that comes into play. But, you know, that's obviously if you have a ticket to that show, you're now getting a bonus IWGP World title match. We don't know what it's going to be. You know, it's going to be Okada, obviously, but, you know, we'll have to see who he's facing. You know, I've seen names like Lance Archer, Minoru Suzuki, maybe somebody from AEW, maybe somebody like Filthy Tom Lawler. You know, if you're just thinking who's in America who could possibly take a match like this. So we'll see. But Battle in the Valley shaping up to be a very interesting show. And this tour, these new beginning shows look great. So,
yeah, I'm more excited. I'm more excited for New Japan than I've been in a very, very long time. And then I saw these tours and I was like, all right, let's see. Like this might, and I'm like, no, I'm watching every one of these shows for something on all these shows has me interested. And that has not happened in a very, very, very long time. So, yeah, they all look good. I'm interested. New Japan appears fully back, so we'll see what happens there. Real quickly before we leave, Impact Hard to Kill is this weekend as well. Not a ton that I'm super interested in. I've kind of hand waved Impact for a while. I will check out if people recommend anything from the show. You have Josh Alexander versus Bully Ray for the Impact World Championship Full Metal Mayhem. They just announced that match is going to actually open the pay-per-view. And the new main event is going to be Jordan Grace versus Mickie James for the Knockouts title versus Mickie James's career. So Mickie James's career on the line there in that. Motor City Machine Guns versus Heath and Rhino versus the major players versus the Bullet Club, because it is Impact, and how can we possibly have an Impact show without numerous unnecessary multi-person matches? And there we go, a 4-way Impact World Championship match. Trey Miguel versus Black Toros for the Impact X Division title. Jonathan Gresham versus Eddie Edwards. Deonna Purrazzo. Oh, hey. Needless multi-person matches. Deonna Purrazzo, Masha Slamovich, Taylor Weil, and Killer Kelly for the Impact Knockouts #1 contendership. Joe Hendry versus Moose for the Impact Digital Media title. The Death Dolls with a Z versus Tasha Steelz, Savannah Evans, and Giselle Shaw. And then finally, Alan Angels, Yua Uemura, Mike Jackson, yes, that Mike Jackson, Mike Bailey, Kushida, and Gujar, I believe is how you pronounce his name. But that is a multi-man match.
Bhupinder Gujar.
Yeah, Bhupinder Gujar. I believe he is on the that match is on the pre-show, which I feel like I got to get Mike Bailey on my main show, right? Like if I'm booking Mike Bailey, Kushida, Yua Uemura, those guys are on my main show, but not the Death Dolls. I'll tell you that the Death Dolls are not on my show. Mike Bailey, Kushida, Yua Uemura, Alan Angels are on my show.
Is there anyone in wrestling spinning their wheels right now more than Kushida?
Dude, I told you that when he came back to New Japan. I was like, that dude felt like nothing. Yeah. That dude, he came back and people were just like, oh yeah, all right. And then he's popped up in America and people are just like, yeah, whatever. I saw him at an Impact show and he may have just been dude back. He might have been just a guy. Because he came out and it was like, Kushida! And there's like 7 people being like, yeah, whatever. That dude, when he went to WWE, he destroyed his career. Destroyed it. And now he's doing nothing.
I hope the money was good. I hope the money was worth
it. I don't think, does New Japan have any plans for this guy? Are they like, what is the plan? You know, he got the hand, foot, mouth disease, and that sucks, obviously. But then, like,
well, he came back and worked all openers on the tag.
He's not on any of the. Did I mention him once in those New Beginning shows, Joe?
He's not on them.
He's not on them. He's doing GCW and Impact. So, yeah, spinning wheels is a good way to put it. Yeah, I saw him announced for a GCW show, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah, there's just nothing going on with him.
No.
Yuya Uemura, by the way. I got a little scooperoo for the end of the show here.
Oh, yeah, let's go. All right.
He's playing games on Twitter. He's still with New Japan, and he's not going anywhere. He just likes it in America right now, and they have brought him back. That's all. You know, but he's fucking with people on Twitter.
No, he's shooting, Joe. He doesn't like New Japan because they suck or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I did get that 100% confirmed. So
he just finds it funny that people are going nuts about it.
Yeah, he's fucking around. Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to blow up the guy's spot, but he's just fucking with people, and it's working. So, although I think most people have figured out that he's just shooting his own angle on Twitter with some of that stuff. Is he even still doing it? He was doing it a few months ago.
He's still doing it. Yeah, his headline is Impact Wrestling. His banner on Twitter is Impact. He's only retweeting Impact stuff. But it's fine.
Yeah.
He's working for Impact,
so
promote the company you're working for right now. I get it. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, people took that as, he's done in New Japan. Him and Carl Fredericks have had enough. And it's like, all right.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, he did fuck around with Fredericks too, like on Twitter. Yeah, it's just he's still a New Japan wrestler.
Okay,
he's just still on excursion.
These wrestlers, man. If I can't trust professional wrestlers, who can I trust in this world?
Yeah. No, who can? It's true. Mike Jackson on this show. There's an old school worker for you.
That dude's on my main show. The Death Dolls hit the fucking bricks. Mike Jackson's on my main show, baby. I love it. Mike Jackson. How old is he now?
When? Is this a real pay-per-view or is this one of those Impact Plus deals?
Great question.
I think it's a real pay-per-view. Isn't it?
I believe it's a real pay-per-view as well.
All right.
Are you going to be plopping down the... It is on, you know what? Why would you buy it anywhere but voicesofwrestling.com/fight?
Absolutely.
For $40. Voicesofwrestling.com/fight is how you can get to Hard to Kill. I'm sorry, that was last year's Hard to Kill was $40. Let's see if... No, it's still $40. So there you go.
Might have to Pyrita Morgan this one. You know what I'm saying? Well,
I also have a preview up at voicesofwrestling.com. Andrew Sinclair did a great job with the preview, as always. So, yeah, we'll see.
Little Kyrie with this one. Little sailing
little Paul Burchill.
Yeah.
John Paul Lafitte.
Little Sailor Art Thomas action.
John Pierre Lafitte. Yep. All right. Anyway,
Garrett doesn't listen anymore. Who cares? He won't yell at us. He won't hear it.
It's too late in the show anyway. Yeah. Who knows? Anyway. All right. I'm being told the Death Dolls are in the pre-show. Good. You know what I would also do is not have them on my show at all. Lock the door. Don't let them in. But anyway, that's fine. Okay. That is it for us on the flagship. Again, flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voicesofwrestling. voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, however you want to get there. That is how you get there. And that is it. Yeah, voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews, columns. The Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe to that, as well as all the other shows in their individual feeds. Also on YouTube. Just look out for Voices of Wrestling on YouTube, trying to grow that channel. It's doing well. It's growing, but keep working on that. We're going to keep working on that in 2023, so make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button, as the kids say, all that other stuff. But yeah, I shivered. I just shuddered as I said that, so I apologize in advance. Hopefully I said it in enough of a gritted teeth voice that people knew I was joking. But there you go. Anyway, that's it for us. That's Joe. I'm Rich. Flagship Podcast.
92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
All because of a fancy bike?
It's not just a bike. Peloton makes treadmills too.
All treadmills are the same.
Our treadmills can adjust speed and incline automatically, so you never break your stride. Whether you're squeezing in a power walk or training for a marathon, Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try the Peloton Tread risk-free with the 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.